evening. I now call to order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission for August 13th. We'll start with our new hearings. The first hearing will be pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended. There'll be a public hearing to consider an RDA for Ross LaPointe regarding whether the work of constructing a shed, plantings, and building retaining walls to stop an eroding hillside is subject to the Wetland Protection Act. Address 8 Nutting Drive, map 527, lot 40. Is there someone here to represent the applicant? No one's here? We'll leave that till the meeting.
Are we skipping the first one, or?
Yeah, we're going to continue it till the end. We're going to move it, make sure to mention that.
To the end, I'm just where?
Probably the end of the hearings and stuff. Would you like me to?
They just asked you to put in the beginning of the hearing, but since he's not here and I'm representing, I figured we did that one at the end.
Okay, just if we could do that for, it's new business, can we do that before we get to continued ones? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, to be a public hearing to consider an ANRAD by Oxbow Associates for Aaron Industries Corporation to evaluate the boundaries of an area subject to Wetlands Protection Act, address 8 Mohawk Drive, map 323, parcel 8 and 10, DEP 199-1092. Is there someone representing the applicant? He's not here either. We're going to get through it quick tonight, Andy.
Say it out loud.
All right. We'll move on to the next one. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there will be a public hearing to consider an RDA for Whitney Carriage Associates Limited Partnership, represented by Whitman and Bingham Associates, regarding whether the work of replacing a light poles throughout the site in the floodplain area, riverfront area, and buffer zone is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. Address is 122 Water Street, map 22, lot 1. Do we have someone representing the applicant? Yes, sir.
My name, Robert Ruggles, owner's representative with Whitney Carriage Associates.
Okay.
I don't know where my engineer is, but I can, which we're on light poles. I don't know, Wes, I don't even know what I haven't met him. Jamie's out, but we have rusted light poles, and we are replacing the light standard, the structural portion. There's a concrete foundation that was, these were created when the apartments were changed in 1987. There's no work to the foundation. They are all working light fixtures right now. Last year we did a national grid upgrade to put LED lights on top so energy comes. So lights are great, but the poles are terrible and they're just rusted out at the base. I had some pictures for you that I think Whitman and Bingham has them, but they're just rusted on the bottom. They serve their useful life, and what we intend to do is use a cherry picker light truck to come out and replace and put the same light fixture back in its place. There's no soil disruption, there's no waste. This is a very benign light standard replacement, but it's across the entire property. The majority of our property is surrounded by the Manistee Brook, so there's very little of our property that isn't within the 100-foot or 200-foot buffer zone.
Okay.
Some of the lights we're doing are not in the buffer zone, some are, and I don't know what the count is.
Right.
I think I walked the site with Angie and is it Jamie that we met with, I think? Yeah. The majority of those light fixtures, a good portion of them, are in parking lots. So they are in the buffer zone, but it's completely paved and completely
Right.
disturbed already. So there's literally no impact at all.
I believe some of them are also in the floodplain.
But there's not gonna be any digging or.
Yeah.
Poles are gonna be basically the same size.
Yes,
I mean, basically,
we're not gonna extend the height, they're gonna match in height. They'll just be newly finished and not rusted.
right,
So it's kind of a like-kind replacement, I guess you'd say.
right. Okay. Any other commission members, questions?
No questions for me. What kind of anchoring system is on those lights? What if you run into a situation where the anchoring system has to be replaced, say for one that's not in a paved area?
Well, they're all in a paved area.
They all are.
They all are in a paved area, yes. These are parking lot lights, not, we don't have any, the only unpaved areas are, there's some adjacent impervious area, turf areas between sidewalks and the buildings. But the light fixtures that were on the buildings have all been replaced, so those are not light poles. These are freestanding poles in paved lot areas. The entirety of them are. There's not a single one of them that is not in a paved area. The anchoring to get to the foundation of the anchoring, are you Wes?
Yes.
Oh, hi Wes. I'm
In the hallway.
Yeah, that's why I was like, come in.
Meet my engineer.
You out of order?
What's that?
You out of order? Is that, I was out in the hallway, I didn't realize you were already at.
Yeah, we had a few that kind of, we had to skip, so.
Apologize.
That's why I told you you can come in.
On the foundation, there is a chance that the anchor bolts, don't align, in which case we would shear them off, core into the existing foundation that's, the pier is raised, it's sunk down about 5 feet below frost depth. And then, they're about a 12-inch diameter standard parking lot light pole. They're raised up out of the ground so cars don't smash into the steel area. So the foundation, the pier itself, protects the pole from being knocked over. And those bolts are shear bolts too, so we would just re-drill, epoxy set those if we ran into those problems, if we didn't have the exact mounting situation. I don't see that that's a pretty typical thing that we would do.
Any other questions or concerns? Wes, we are just on the first hearing talking about the light pole replacements.
I did bring pictures, I don't know if you want to see the light poles or not. I think we're in the second one, right?
There, yeah.
As an example of what they look like.
Do you have a spec on what we're using to replace those?
Scoot forward here, excuse me. No, we don't have a spec as of yet. I'm not sure they will until it goes, until they get it, contract all lined up.
Using the existing footing though?
Correct, the intent is to use the existing footing, and then just the pole be replaced.
So my only concern without having more information would be just floodplain volume.
Yeah.
So if you're using something bigger, then that
Nope.
would obviously be.
No, the footing will stay the same. And so that's the intent of this, and that's why we knew that was gonna be an issue with regards to the floodplain. We didn't wanna get into compensatory storage or anything, changing the footings of those.
Does the floodplain go above that footing in any place?
I'm not sure if it's.
Wes, it would just be in the south lot there.
This one.
Yeah, that's what we call the south lot. It's on Whitney and Water and, well, it's south of Water Street. And that entire property, as you can see, the red line delineates your floodplain. And you can see the south lot, the entirety of it is in the floodplain, to answer your question directly. The other ones, the other light poles that are around the buildings, what you would think of the building complex, are not in the floodplain. It goes around the townhouses in the back. The other lights that are up there, if you point to the north side of building 1, Wes. Yep, those lights are mounted on the building.
And I don't have an elevation with me on those light posts, on the bases. You can see how far they kind of.
What is the question? What is the top of the pier?
Yes. The concern is if the post is bigger, it's going to take up the pet storage. It's going to take up storage in the floodplain.
We're not changing
No,
there's no
the pole
load.
itself.
Pole itself.
The pole itself, if it's bigger than what's there now.
Does the floodplain go above the footing? Because if it does, you put in, that's why I asked you, the poles, are they gonna be bigger or
Oh.
smaller?
They're the same size, okay? They're the same size. It's a 4x4 post right now, okay? And we're gonna use the exact same size
Okay.
post. There's not any bigger. And I believe that floodplain would not extend above. I think that the pier extends above the top of the floodplain. Because the floodplain's only, maybe a foot or so above the, we've looked at these elevations before, and I can tell you that south lot is maybe a foot. So to sort of graphically indicate it, it would be if floodplain is here and parking lot is where my foot is, top of concrete pier is here, and base post is up here. So I would say it's 1.5 to 2 foot above the floodplain.
But you're replacing them with a 4x4 post or a 4-inch round?
Yes, sir.
post.
Yeah. There really isn't any reason to do anything more, you know what I mean?
The lights are probably smaller. so you-
The lights are lighter, yeah, exactly. There's less load on it.
Any other questions or comments? Do you have anything to add, Wes, at this point?
This was
Okay.
pretty straightforward as we
And
can.
you were on the site walk, you and Angie, and they were all on piers, there
Yeah.
was nothing.
I don't see any issues with what they're doing.
Okay. This is an RDA, right?
Yes.
All right. Should I open it to the public, or it doesn't matter? Yeah, all right. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Second time and final time. All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion and/or other comments or questions from any members of the commission?
I'd like to just make one comment,
Yes?
that any pole that's being replaced in the floodplain should be same size or smaller than what's there, so they could submit shop drawings prior to installing those.
Do I have a second on that motion along with Mr. Stone's add condition?
A second.
All right, all in favor? All right.
For the record, do we do it, is it a negative, would that be a negative 3?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, there's a -3 with the condition that they'll submit, before they install, they'll be submitting the shop sizes.
Okay.
Shop drawings.
Cut sheet,
Yes.
product cut sheet.
Yep,
I'll
that's
get you
fine.
that detail.
All right, we'll move on to the next one for Whitney Carriage. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the public hearing for an RDA for, I gotta make sure I'm reading this one right. Represented by Whitman and Bingham regarding whether the work to build a playground is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. This work will take place in the buffer zone and the riverfront area associated with Moose Brook. Address is 122 Water Street, map 22, lot 1. Kelly has, Angie got them?
Yeah.
So the location of the playground is located north side of Moose Brook. This paved area, a former court, paved courts there. What we're looking to do is install a playground, and so in the attachment that I gave you is a picture of the playground equipment that we're going to install. And so, and also there's a picture in here of the grassed area. And so right to the south of this paved court area, there's a grassed area that they're looking to install the playground that I have also included in the attachments tonight. So we're going to install that playground. We're going to put it on rubber, spark mulch or rubber pellets for safety concerns. They'll border that rubber area so that it's contained within that playground area. And then we'll just replace the grassed-in area right now that's there. Pretty simple project. Should take a month to install and construct it. So again, we're here for a request for determination of applicability because we are in the small portion in the floodplain, and then we are in the 100-foot riparian zone, so new stock book. But we're not looking to change the grades. It's going to be remain the same grade as it is now, just with the equipment sitting on that area.
Assuming you're just gonna take off the stock, probably put in the rubber mulch, whether it's plastic border or some sort of rubber border.
Yes.
Commission members, any questions or comments?
Eventually going to take the pavement out of there, is that the?
We haven't decided, what to do with the pavement yet. Kids like to skateboard and ride their bikes around there, and it's a fenced area. It's a nice area without car traffic for children. So just to have a hardscape over there is still, a used play area.
No cars go over that little bridge, that's just a walking pedestrian.
Never.
Just a pedestrian bridge.
It's just a pedestrian walkway across there. No vehicles go across there, ever.
No floodplain's not in that area, that's just the,
Floodplain lines here, and then where we show the playground equipment is right outside of it, so it's going to be right to the north,
okay.
northwest of that line. So we're not going to stay out of the floodplain with any of the construction with regards to this.
Right.
It's on the last page of that handout I gave you, it shows the location of the playground.
So all that berming you were talking about, that'll all be outside the floodplain?
Right.
Floodplain have a BFE?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
Does it have elevations in the floodplain? I can't remember what the elevation is off the top of my
I
head.
could look it up. It's gonna just take a little bit to find it.
I guess my other question is, your floodplain that's shown on the plan, is that based on the BFE, or is that just an overlay from the flood map, or?
No, so we have, we've done a fair amount of work out here, but we do have elevations on the plans. We just weren't showing it on this because we, just more of a land plan that we were doing, building permit process.
So if I understand you correctly, then that what I think you're saying is that your flood line here is based on elevations that you've looked at in the past, and you're not just simply overlaying
No,
the
we've done
FEMA
this,
line.
we've been involved with this like for years, so.
Okay.
I think we've done, I don't know how many times in the alpha plan or a survey.
That was my discussion with Jamie, is that he said they shot floodplains.
They did, yes. I hired them to do that. Mind if I bring you the FEMA FEMA map that's on my computer and you can see the grades?
No, that's not gonna help with my question. It was more as what he was showing on the plan.
Yep. It's, the elevation from FEMA's 332. And there's a bit, I was involved with Whitman and Bingham and, understanding exactly where the floodplain is to this. And the FEMA line goes right across about where that playground is. So 322 is what the flood map says.
Any other comments or questions? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Second time and final time. All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Brad, would you like a minute?
Give me 1 second. If you did that. So,
The fence exists now?
The fence does exist.
Okay. So you're just putting it on, it's fenced in grassed area now, you're just gonna put the playground on it, on the grass, basically.
We're gonna excavate a little
the
bit of the
grass,
grass out so that
the
it's
mulch,
flush. You
yeah.
know, it's not just piling it up on top there, so that,
Right.
and then there's a playground mulch.
Mhm.
I think even the city of Leominster uses it at their parks.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gets pulled out, and then we playground mulch, and then the anchorage for the playground, you know, for the equipment itself.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion from anyone on the commission?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we issue, is it -3 inch?
If you have conditions, you might as well, it's either -2 or -3. Do you have a
Does
condition?
anybody
with it?
have any conditions that they wanna put on it?
I mean, definitely, if there's gonna be any stockpiling, I mean, I know it's pretty flat, but if it's pavement and stuff, we wanna make sure that it's at least covered. Is it gonna be stockpiling? You said you're gonna be doing some minor excavating, so.
No, as a matter of fact, we were here in a special meeting last month. Maybe you read the notes of the meeting, but we had some lead-impacted soils in the corner of 1B. Maybe you can point where that is. The area of lead-impacted, so exactly
Yeah.
in that. So that's clean fill over there. One of the conditions to be in compliance here is to fill 12 inches over the top of it. So we'll just take that and kill 2 birds with 1 stone here.
All right.
Gain a playground and make our site safer.
Right.
Excellent. And,
Good?
Yep.
Okay.
And that would happen right away. You know, we're in that 120-day window,
Right.
now 90 days and counting.
Okay. So what did you decide? A negative
I recommend negative determination number 2.
number 2. Okay. Do I have a second? Yeah.
what is a -2? Just so.
Oh, I'm sorry, the work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the act, but will not remove, build, dredge, or alter that area, therefore said work does not require filing of notice of intent.
Are they removing area though? Are they removing material in there? So,
If I can clarify, number 3, Larry, is only for buffer zone work, so because this is,
Oh, okay.
because this is
Okay.
resource area, that's why she suggested
okay,
it too.
all right, thank you. I just want to understand what I'm voting on.
I don't know the difference either, so that's why.
I've actually, we've only ever done 3s, so. All right,
Okay. Do I have a second on the -2 determination or something else?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. And there's another one, right?
Yes.
Last hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. Public hearing for an RDA from Whitney Carriage, represented by Whitman and Bingham, regarding whether the work of masonry, repair of building and chimney are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. Portions of the work will take place in the buffer zone and riverfront area associated with Manusnak Brook, address 122 Water Street, map 22, lot 1.
So the RDA for this is for the building and chimney masonry repair, and I'll go over all the buildings that this is associated with. So we have building 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and then 60 in the back. is what the, and then the chimney with regards to building 16 also is part of this RDA. And so what they're looking to do is fix any masonry that needs to be fixed and clean everything, and then also do any repairs that are necessary for the chimney on building number 16. What I included in the handout was also the product that they intend to use to clean the site, so that you can see what they're using, so you know,
What do you mean by cleaning, just getting it back, taking,
It's power washing, you know, it's never been done.
Okay.
So it's just dirt and sort of an algae or whatever that's grown over time, you know, on the north facade. It's just dirty and not good looking. It's good masonry practice to keep it clean, and it'll look spiffy.
right?
And there are some corbels that we need to take care of for safety, where some of the tuck pointing, you know, it's frosted out a little bit. The chimney is some of our biggest repair work. We flew a drone up on top of it, and there's no cap. So water comes down and splashes in the inside of the old incinerator chimney. And the first 8 or, do you have a picture of that for them? The first 8 or so feet of brick has been spalled off. So it's kind of the anatomy of brick failure is they come in with a mortar that's much stronger than the brick. The older brick is a softer brick. A lot of people use a type N mortar, but this would have been built with a type O, which is maybe 350 PSI, where type N is going to be 850 to 900 PSI. And when you make that mortar, you tuck point that brick in there, then the brick becomes the soft point, the fail point, not the mortar. The mortar should always be the fail point. And what happens is when that frost cycle happens, the moisture wants to move through the brick, and then it freezes and it pops the face off of it. So we've lost those faces, and we're going to remediate those with flashing and then stucco up on top of there, and then put a cap over it, you know, a zinc, you know, cap up on top of it, and really do it for, you know, a good long time. This is a process that probably only needs to be done once every 15 years or something like that. But it's done with chemicals that are environmentally friendly. It's all very much hands-on with lifts, and you know, it's close-in work. It's meticulous work, and it's gonna. We will not get, if we get the approval to go ahead today, tomorrow, we won't be finished this year. We'll have to go this year into next year to. It's an extensive. It's every wall across the entire property. Some of it, a bunch of it, you know, like along Whitney Street isn't in the buffer zone, but the corner of 7, maybe if you want to walk them through a little bit, or Wes, is that the corner of 7, that's the original office building for the Whitney Carriage Company, and that's the one, you know, we're in for historic tax credits and all. We really want this building to shine. So that's going to take a lot of work on it, and then as 7 comes around, it goes to building 1. Okay, so that's all brick back there, and that chimney unit, building 16 and then building 21, right there, are all brick and in need of, they need tuck pointing and cleaning.
So there's real no construction, it's only just R&M.
There's no new construction
Right.
on that.
Where is the chimney on building 16? Is it on the
It shows
brook
on,
side?
it shows on
not.
the last picture.
It's the opposite of the brook side.
Okay,
So north is right on that site plan. So east is down, and it's the east side.
okay, that was, okay,
It should show in that last picture.
okay, yeah, all right.
It costs more to take the chimney down than to repair it, so
Right.
we're gonna leave it.
Yeah, but it's cool if they just drop it.
It's cool. I'm sure the State Historic Preservation Office would be happy with us for doing that.
So the chemicals used won't alter the Moosoc Brook, because I do know most of the catch basins there do deposit directly into the brook
Correct.
without treatment. So you guys had a
Correct.
statement like there's a signed statement saying that won't alter any of the life in the brook.
So all the drainage in the parking lot that this would wash into goes into those catch basins first. And I believe at the last meeting, for the notice of intent, for the improvements to the parking lot, there was an agreement to put hoods on the catch basins too,
So that will be done first, once
Yeah.
we get the deed.
Correct.
This isn't, fire hoses of water. This is like, it's kind of an intense spray, but it's not volumes and volumes. It's low volume, high pressure, whereas like a fire hose is high volume, low pressure.
Any questions?
Wes, these, the photos I'm looking at, it looks like it's pretty much hard surface around the buildings.
Correct.
So the water that gets sprayed on that is gonna get to that parking area or into the drainage system at some point, right?
Correct.
Are you proposing any other BMPs other than a hood in the basin?
We don't show it on the plan. I know it was talked about if the board wants like a silt sack or some kind of, something else put in the catch basin, some kind of filter on top of it or something like that, that they'd be agreeable to that too, if that's what the commission deems necessary for this.
I think there's, the catch basin is always the last resort. There may be opportunity to do something right at the bottom of the building itself. Whether you can use compost socks or something that might help prevent it from flowing away from the foundation, or even something that might absorb
Yeah,
that first
issue with that.
flush.
I have no issue with that.
So that, you have to remember, even though I haven't seen this product before, but even though something may be environmentally friendly as a detergent or whatever's being used for power washing, the reality is what you're spraying is quite often the pollutant. So if you look at these 3 cars in the parking lot under the federal NPDES stormwater permit, you couldn't wash those cars. That would be a violation of the permit. And it's not so much because of the detergent, but everything that comes off those vehicles too. So we have to think about not just what's in the water, but what's actually being used.
On the bill.
Right. So you really do need a better BMP than a hood in the basin, for instance, because that's just gonna get out of there as well. Anyway.
You don't have no issue with that.
I'm agreeable to the BMPs.
So would it be like an absorbent kind of material that would just go around the?
There's a few things that could be used. If we decide to vote on this tonight, I would just suggest that the applicant work with our agent on finalizing that. It's not that complicated to get something out there.
I spoke to Jamie about it originally, when I originally walked the site with him probably 4 months ago, and I said, you might need to put something around the base, so.
Yeah. So it's always best to try to stop it at its first source. But around the catch basin, there's things you can do too.
Agreed.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Second time and final time? I have to declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a recommendation?
So I'm gonna defer to Brad, so I was gonna recommend a -3, but since that's just for buffer zone, not for floodplain, I believe some of these projects in the floodplain that really apply, that it's not really altering the floodplain. We use the -3.
You're still in the resource area,
Yeah.
so you would still use that one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I recommend a -3. The work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the act. Therefore, said work does not require filing of a notice of intent subject to the following conditions. I recommend installing extra BMPs and discussing with me beforehand for inspection.
I would just amend that to number 2, because you still are in the resource area.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, do I have a second on that -2 determination?
Who made the initial?
Oh, that's right, you always made it. She was just giving me the recommendation, sorry.
I'll make a motion for a -2 determination with the recommendations of the agent.
Do I have a second on that? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all. Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
And thank you for the color plans, it really helped.
That helps a lot.
Yeah.
I'll let Jamie know you did the work.
Yeah. Don't forget Frank. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was wondering if you'd be able to go back up to 8 Nutting and 8 Mohawk, and both applicants are here.
All right, we can do that.
Thank you.
We will go back to, are you here for, all right, we'll go back to 8 Mohawk. Let me get the right one here. 8 Mohawk Drive, Mass DEP 199-1092.
Thank you for going back and letting us present. My name is Ron Stossel from Osco Associates. I'm representing Aaron Industries. Pete Angelini's also here from Aaron Industries. If there's any questions regarding anything else about the property. The property is actually 2 lots located south of Mohawk Drive. The northernmost lot is this warehouse building and associated parking areas. The second lot is actually mostly forested, and it slopes gently to the south, southwest. We flagged the property on May 6th, 2019, this year, when the water was fairly high. There's a couple historic drainage ditches that we think existed probably from past farming, but they're very deep, probably 5 to 6 feet below regular topo here. They're very narrow, and we end up flagging from off-site on the property from the south all the way around each one of them. These 2 fingerfoot-like projections flow south to Wetland C, which flows from the other side of Route 190. They're all intermittent and have channelized intermittent flow. These 2, when they are flowing, do flow into this C-series wetland located off-site, and eventually flow into the Nashua River downstream. We walked it yesterday, and this one's dry. There's still some standing water in both of these, but I didn't see any flow yesterday when we were out there. Otherwise, the majority of this second property is all upland with upland species, sycamore, sugar maple, lots of poison ivy, and bittersweet, and Virginia creepers, very prevalent. So we're asking you just to approve the wetland line that's located on the property and the buffer zone that extends on the property.
Any questions? I did go on the site walk yesterday. We did walk the entire wetland line. Very distinct. Nothing to be in question. I did have Angela, that last finger on the left, I did have Angela auger out a couple holes. Actually, I think you did it, sir. And just to make sure, figuring that would be the closest, and there was, the flags out there were very conservative at best. It's very distinct, very flat until these channels are, like you said, 5 or 6 feet deep, so very obvious where they are.
It's mostly groundwater seeping out of, because they're so deep, the groundwater seeping out of the ground.
Questions, comments? Okay. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on this RDA? No, this is ANRAD, this one. Second time and final time. All right. I declare the public hearing closed. Brad, you looking something up? You're all set for this one? Okay. Do I have a recommendation?
I recommend that we approve the wetland delineation and the buffer zone as shown in the plan.
Okay. Do I have a motion for that recommendation? Something different?
The recommendation is to issue an order resource area delineation.
Do I have a
Is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Right, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
You said Nutting Drive is here? All right, we will go back to 8 Nutting Drive, map 527, lot 40. Is there someone here to
Yeah.
represent the applicant?
I'm the homeowner.
Yes.
We're looking to install 2 retaining walls on the west side of our property to help maintain erosion of the hillside. And then we're looking to bring in some fill and fill in between the 2 retaining walls, and then plant grass possibly, and then install a shed in the back corner.
If I may just make a comment, Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was doing some research on this project, and I was using the USGS topographic maps, and I saw that the stream we've been calling perennial, actually is not perennial, and I went back and looked at the old meeting videos on YouTube. It looks like Mr. Bangrazi had done the same thing and saw that it wasn't perennial, and he pulled a stream stat report that also supported that it was not perennial, that's actually an intermittent stream. So I have updated the file on that as well. So the 200-foot riverfront area would not apply for this project.
Okay. And where does the retaining walls and all this work? How far from this intermittent stream is it?
I believe it's about 75.
We even have like a hand-drawn plan?
Yeah, they're all in here. Maybe scroll a bit more, next couple pages as
Okay.
well.
So, okay, here's the,
I don't know if you remember there, this originally started out as an enforcement because there was some clearing of invasives on the site. And the hillside was eroding, so this is kind of the remedy for the eroding, prevent it from getting down to the head wall. I did have to have DPW go out and clear the head wall since there is an easement there.
Okay.
Do you have another hard copy of this application?
That's the only one I have with me.
so was there any erosion that made it to the resource area?
Not to the resource area, it all kind of stops on the property, but the hillside, it's a very steep hill, and the neighboring property does have a shed, and it looks like they're storing some garbage bags and trash cans there, so I think over time, if this doesn't get remedied, it's just gonna continuously go down and cause more problems for the homeowners.
Now, how far is that? How far are they going, I'm sorry, from the resource area?
It looks like 75 to 80 feet, I think it says it right there on the plan where the retaining wall is.
You're in the 75
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
foot area.
71 feet
71
you.
feet.
from the resource area.
This was the site that, did you say had bittersweet, like the whole thing was? or-
yeah,
Poison ivy,
Those
it's
poison ivy.
infested.
bittersweet. It originally started out as a complaint from a neighbor that they were cutting down large trees. It was really just kind of brush and the invasives that they were taking out. And it's remedy that they are replanting, like I said, it's wildflowers we had discussed as well, wildflower. And did you guys contact?
Yeah, we're not in that zone, I
Not
guess.
in the zone, sorry.
For trees?
Yeah, for the trees.
Is anybody in there?
I'm in the zone.
Is that a conflict of interest? Who's gonna do the work?
I haven't talked to anybody yet. Well, I have quotes, but I haven't been able to like, hammer anything down because I've been waiting on this for like 3 months. So, but it will be a licensed contractor.
You're gonna have a contractor,
Yeah.
you're not gonna do it yourself? Okay. Any other comments or questions?
So how was it determined that it's not perennial? Was it just?
The USGS maps as well as the stream stat report, and actually the commission agreed on it and they voted on it as an intermittent stream, but it never made it to the actual file that was intermittent. There was nothing put into writing, but it's on, if you watch the video of the meeting, you guys voted on it for the order of conditions. It was issued to Terry Aho.
When was that?
I wanna say 2016.
Yeah.
It was before me. I just think what happened was that, the guys didn't had asked, there was no, revised plan submitted, and then the order conditions got made, and then springtime picked up, and it just got pushed to the back of the.
Now, was there an order of conditions, was there one for this house? Is that what-
Yes, so we already issued a certificate of compliance as well.
Okay.
It was one where the footing drain was slightly over the property line.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I have a question, is this, on one of the drawings is a shed, 10 by 12, the other drawing doesn't have it.
The shed is proposed.
It's proposed.
Yeah, they'd like to put a shed in the future.
Which is exempt, right?
It's exempt if it's 50 feet away from the resource area. Or more.
It's hard to see stuff on this phone. Is the plan for the shed, if it goes in after all the plantings and walls and everything else?
Yeah.
Can you read all these things?
How steep is the drop off down to the, is it?
I'd say it's almost a 1-to-1 slope.
So if anything does get past that,
Yeah.
if there's any material, it's gonna get right to the resource
It's
area.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna roll down and it levels out towards the bottom. But over time, it's just gonna cause more problems if they don't, and obviously it's gonna put their own yard
No,
at
but
risk, and they
even,
don't want that.
right, but even during construction, if there's any kind of stockpiling by
Yeah,
the
they're
masons or
stockpiling,
whoever doing it,
yeah.
we're gonna end
They'll
up
have to
with.
put the stockpiling towards the house. And I've been talking, I've spoken with the homeowners multiple times, and they're pretty much willing, do any sort of erosion controls are necessary, and they just wanna do it right.
I mean, if they're doing a lot of digging for, I'm just trying to figure why this would be an RDA as opposed to a notice of intent if they're gonna be digging substantially to put in retaining walls. I just wanna make sure we kind of cover our bases, because I know there's been plenty of other times when people have come in to put in retaining walls and, they've gone through as a notice of intent, so.
When I called DEP actually to get advice on it to see which one, and they said they would probably lean more towards the RDA because they are trying to stop erosion, they're trying to kind of fix the problem before it becomes a bigger problem, as well as they're gonna be remediating the area from their enforcement order.
Okay.
Who's the enforcement order issued to?
The enforcement order was issued to Mr. Russell Point, the homeowner.
And the specifics on that again was for?
It was for the brush clearing and the invasive clearing right up to the brook. They cleared the whole area.
Okay, so it's not because of a
No, it wasn't because of the erosion.
grade-in or anything
No,
like
no,
that?
it wasn't anything like that. It was just they kind of cleared it all, had a nice fire, and then they didn't realize the impacts.
They burn poison ivy? That's not a good idea.
Wasn't me.
What's wrong with that?
So you're not anywhere near it.
Do you have any questions?
But, not any questions, but more of a comment, similar to what Larry had mentioned. I mean, the lack of detail of what's in the application in terms of a professionally drawn plan, in terms of existing conditions, the grading, the exact well locations. You know, what's there looks like a CAD overlay on top of a GIS photo or something like that from when the lot prior to construction. If the project is simply to fix an erosion problem, you can do that without doing any grading. And if the erosion problem is specifically that bad that they feel they need to change the grade in there, then I have some concerns that by bringing in that fill and building walls, you're making the site extremely vulnerable to a lot of runoff getting down into that brook. That's something that you typically want to have controls over, and you do that with the order conditions.
I have a lot of concerns with the slope. I mean, that work being done with that steep slope, I have those same concerns. Because right now, we would have no, you know, this, not, determination really doesn't give us any ability to really control what they're doing as much. You know, there's no boilerplate, but
What was that?
I said I understand.
Oh, okay, that's all right. I'm just looking at the elevations, kind of.
yeah, if it was a gently sloping property, or if it was different conditions, you know, but something with that steeper slope, I think there needs to be more controls, like Mr. Stone is saying.
So what would the commission like to do? Would you like to deny the RDA or give them?
I think it would be a positive determination.
Right, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
a positive determination. and-
That's kind of what I'm leaning towards, based on the conditions of the property.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else has a thought, I don't.
What would be your recommendation, just from talking with DEP, or?
I would recommend issuing a negative determination number 3 and adding conditions onto that. They've worked with me so far very well throughout the enforcement order. They jumped right on it, they came right to the meeting. But I do understand Mr. Giannakis and Mr. Stone's concern.
I guess my question is if we added conditions, can we, I guess, enforce them, or can we, I'm kind of on the fence here, to, you know, if we're fixing the problem, but, you know, if you start excavating and rain, you know,
Yeah.
how do we, how can we control like we can with an NOI versus an RDA?
Well, since there's already an enforcement order, if there was issues, we could ask the state for assistance and come in with fines.
At that point.
Because there already is an enforcement order.
Okay.
It is up to the commission.
And the other thing is, like Mrs. Stone said, we don't really have, that doesn't really show you where the actual, there's no measurements to show you, and elevations to show you where the wall begins. I just don't, it doesn't seem like there's enough detail there. I mean, they could put the wall anywhere on the property. You know what I mean? It leaves a little bit up to. I mean, I appreciate that they're,
Ultimately, what is your plan with having these two walls, I guess? Because I kind of remember the pictures, excuse me, after you took the vegetation out.
Yeah.
It was kind of a steep slope. Is it to put walls to make it kind of
More
Better.
flat, yeah.
flat here and more vertical walls there than that steep slope, or, I guess?
I'm putting a wall at kind of like the center of the yard and then building up out to contain the hill, then build, you know, put wildflowers in there to really control the hill, you know?
Right.
I mean, jute matting will control erosion without doing any kind of construction. And I understand, you get to a point where you're stopping erosion versus you're changing the topography of the property.
Right.
And I think that's, I
I
think.
mean, the elevation change between the two walls is only 4 feet. It goes from, you know, roughly 514 to 510.
So technically they would need a building permit because anything holding soil over 4 feet.
It'd be 40 inches really, but
Okay.
could be talked about that.
I was like, wait a minute.
That's why we don't have to get engineered,
Yeah.
for the building department.
All right, any other comments or questions? Anybody in the audience like to speak at this RDA? Second time and final time? All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion on this RDA or other discussion and/or comments from commission members? You can either issue a positive or a negative, or
I'm gonna throw it out there, I'm gonna make a motion for, to issue a positive determination for, 8 Nutting Drive, map 525, lot 40.
do I have a second on this positive determination?
Second.
All in favor?
Can I
Oh,
amend that?
yes, you can.
Positive determination, condition 4, the work is in the buffer zone. Non-area subject protection building in the buffer zone, and will alter the area subject protection.
Okay. All in favor of that negative, that positive determination? Opposed? All right, so at this point, it doesn't pass, so you're gonna have to go the route of an NOI.
Okay.
Work with Angela on that to figure that out.
Can I just,
Yeah,
there might be other ways to stabilize the area though, without having to do an NOI, you know what I mean? That are less, yeah, less of an impact on, you know, if it's just I mean, if it's really a matter of stabilizing it for now, I mean, you can go the route of like tube matting, things like that, to stabilize it.
I think the idea was just to kind of like build it out so it wouldn't be such a steep slope.
Yeah. Right, but I'm saying that NOI doesn't have to be like tomorrow, like if they need immediate, if we need to immediately solve the erosion
Big
problems,
impact. Yeah.
there's ways to get that done.
I'll give you a call.
All right,
I
thanks.
think the commission just wants a little bit more
Okay.
information and stuff, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's your copy, I
I
don't
was
want
like,
you to use
where'd it
it.
go? Thank you.
That is 8-9. All right.
Is there a paper clip?
Then he had it, he stole it, paper clip.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I don't want to mix up my files. Thank you. So now we're
There he
back.
is, he's hiding.
Now we're back at the notice of intent for Hillary Drive.
Yes. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the public hearing to consider notice of intent for Peter Anderson to build a single-family home with driveway, garage, associated grading and utilities. The work takes place in the buffer zone of an intermittent stream and bordering vegetated wetland, Hillary Road, map 413, parcel 7A, DEP 1991090. Someone representing the applicant.
Yes, sir. For the record, Chris Anderson with Hanning Engineering, here on behalf of Peter Anderson for the construction of a single-family home off of Hillary Road. As you can see from the site plan here, just to orientate ourselves, we have Hillary Road running along the northern, or the upper portion of the page, with the north direction being in a general horizontal direction, or diagonal direction. Currently, the property has no standing structures and is relatively undeveloped. It's primarily woodland, with the topography being of such that the Hillary Road is actually lower in elevation, and the topography rises as you go towards the rear portion of the site. This site has received, or did receive, an order of conditions back in 2009, but due to various other issues, the order has expired. As such, we're refiling for new order of conditions. There is a bordering vegetated wetland that runs along the northern property line with an intermittent stream channel within that wetland area. In addition, there are several drainage ditches that occur throughout the site. During the site walk today, several commission members and the agent and I have walked the site
to confirm that there is no existence of any resource areas further upland, which would make the drainage channels in upon themselves a jurisdictional area. The further off the page you go and further upland, eventually you hit a gravel access drive, which promptly runs into a rock cliff. So there's really no area up there that could create a resource area or can be considered a resource area. So as such, these drainage ditches that are located throughout the property are non-jurisdictional under the Wetlands Act. As part of the construction, we'll be constructing a new single-family home with associated septic system and water connection plan or connections within Hillary Road. Access to the site will be a paved driveway which will extend into the property to provide access to the house. There will be several retaining walls constructed throughout the site to help relieve some of the elevation deltas in the site. As part of the overall design along the upper portion, there is a drainage ditch that runs along the limit of work. The way that the site has been designed and the retaining walls is to maintain that ditch while maintaining a relatively wide buffer along the top of that hill, just to allow and maintain that drainage ditch as much as possible. That way we can maintain the drainage flows in that area as they are now. In addition to that, we'll be installing a yard drain system near the front portion of the property. Currently, most of the runoff gets directed into this area. As part of this, we'll be installing a yard drain which will have a perforated 8-inch drain line set with embedded crushed stone to allow for the smaller storm events to be captured, and then connecting to an existing catch basin that's within Hillary Road. Currently, everything just flows overland right into this catch basin. As part of this, this will help alleviate some of the drainage concerns in that corner of the property. That's the general gist of the project. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Can you just kind of highlight the resource area? I'm just having a hard time.
Yeah, sure. So it comes through here, right, pretty much right along the erosion control line, and then banks off.
Okay.
We walked the site today, myself, Mr. Colombo, and our agent. Because basically one of these drainage ditches is the line, the wetland line. So it's a very distinct line, I guess, for lack of a better term. My question after I left the site was, all the drainage obviously is going towards this site with these drainage ditches and stuff. Is during construction, what happens if we have big rain? How are you, I mean, is silt fence, or I don't know what you're proposing for erosion controls, but.
Hay bales and silt fence along the immediate limit of work. Because we're not touching these ditches and they're being maintained as they are naturally now, it's anticipated that any large rain event will be able to be accommodated by these drainage ditches as they currently sit now, because they're doing exactly what they're doing now.
So you're gonna leave kind of that, an area above, upland of those ditches?
Yeah.
Naturally?
Yeah, so everything, all the work that's being done essentially is getting, for lack of a better term, or back of a better way of looking at it, is that if you were to draw a watershed line, then review the drainage patterns in this area, the drainage line would actually run pretty much right where along our silt fence line is. So meaning all the work that we're doing here goes overland flow to the catch basin. But all the flows that are coming off of the property, off the adjacent properties, are being picked up by these drainage basins, or these drainage channels, and being directed towards the catch basin.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be any direct significant rainfall events that would cause a significant blowout with that.
So just on the other side of it, so this is pretty close to the wetland area then?
Right, but it's down gradient. The wetland sits up here and the property sits down.
So the house is
Strange.
below?
It's strange.
Strange. It's the,
Okay, I'm just
Everything in
thinking
dark
so-
green is higher than,
yeah, the
the
house
light
is like
green.
going into the hill and the wetland's
Okay,
like
so
up
when-
over
when-
here.
so if there's erosion, it goes away from the wetland.
So, and then
Yeah.
if they plow, it's not going into the
No.
wetland
No.
because it's wetlands high, okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Now, how's the groundwater, like, is there a lot of groundwater? Like, do they have to worry about foundations?
Yeah, there will be foundation drains and everything like that
Yeah.
that will discharge
Discharge,
towards,
that'll drive, okay, that'll go.
discharge in this general direction back into our yard drain little set in the front corner of the property.
Now, well, I guess that's how it is now, so. I just wanna make sure that anything that normally would be going to the wetland is still going to, but in this case, all that would be kind of flowing away from the wetland anyways.
Because everything kind of goes this direction,
Yeah.
like that. So right now, everything that's going to there primarily is gonna remain as is.
Yeah.
We don't wanna touch those channels because that's a whole nother nightmare we don't wanna deal with.
Yeah.
Any questions? I know you visited the site.
Yeah, I didn't attend, was it today's sidewalk?
Yeah.
But I did walk it with Angela. I guess what I'm hearing is the consensus in the site walk today was that there's that one resource stream. But when I went out there, I felt that those other two channels could be resource areas. And admittedly, the one towards the south, I guess the southeast corner there. Yeah, I kind of lost that visually once I came onto that lot, but upstream of that I was seeing wetland community. I was having a hard time seeing it further downstream on the lot. I didn't have an auger with me, so I couldn't look at the soils there. But it almost looked like the veg was starting to disappear at that point. But you'd still potentially have something upstream. So I was curious if the wetland scientist report was submitted with this, if we have more information on that. And also, to add to that, when I was out there, I did see water flowing in that channel that you've kind of got hatched that runs roughly parallel with the property line, between the property line and the septic system and house there. I didn't walk off-site onto that parcel labeled now formerly Moses, but I was concerned if anybody's looked at that to see where that comes from, if there's any resource area upstream of that.
So when we walked the site, there were a couple of small, what I'm interpreting as farming ditches, holes in the ground that somebody's dug at some point in time in history, and there's filled water in there. That was the only area that I saw further upland.
I saw that on site. I think this channel looked like it went off site and started heading more easterly behind another home, kind of like the Tola slope of that home. It's just another thing I think that should be looked at, that's all.
When we walked it today, we obviously went up the hill to see what was above it, to see, is it connected? I guess I had the same question as, I had the question of what's the difference between an intermittent stream and a drainage ditch? And I'm not a vegetation expert, so, we had that discussion because the channel's there, and I appreciate, leaving it there and stuff, but that's kind of what I was trying to figure out, is that stream that we're gonna, or that ditch we're gonna leave in place. We didn't go to the other people's property to see what was connected up there. We did climb the hill to see how what they're showing as a wetland, what's that connected to? And it basically ends up at the road, and that's fine, so. I guess I don't have an answer for your question of what was in that southerly, the southerly
So
kind of,
off locus areas.
yeah.
So just to make a point on my concern, if you have a road way upstream and there's nothing beyond that, that's really immaterial. If you have a wetland community anywhere at that point and a channel going into, out of, and downstream, then anything downstream of that wetland community, that channel is going to be a stream.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to further connect to something upstream, for instance. If you're visualizing the road as not being a wetland, there's nothing here, that's not necessarily the case. If you can physically see a kick of wetland within that channel at some point downstream of that road, and then you've got a wetland in that channel further down, it's an intermittent stream at that point.
Yeah.
So to that point, when you walk up there is a road, and then shortly beyond the road, there's a sheer rock cliff.
Yep.
So there's really no wetlands in that area. There's one on top of the hill. There's no defined channel coming from that area down to there.
So my concern was, downstream of the road. So I was literally walking just a little bit within the property and looking a little upstream of that. So I could see what I thought was wetland communities in both of those. And then on site, admittedly, like I mentioned, that southeast corner, I was losing that community within that within that swale that you see there, once you get on site, kind of started looking like it started to disappear, but. So it's just something that I'd feel more comfortable with seeing the biologist report, seeing what he looked at, discovered, and, you know, if, was anybody out there doing samplings during the site walk, or? I know we questioned, an area down by the septic system too, when we
Yeah,
were
right.
out there. And- Okay.
Was that over by the other property?
I don't know, it was kind of like right in the front area where all the ferns were.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much where the ferns
Yeah.
were is where the testing.
Near that, near where that, you've got the channel labeled there, yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Do we have the wetland report? Was that submitted with the?
No, so my files aren't complete on this one. It was filed as, one is lot number 2, and the rest were lots 5, 7, 19, 20B, and 23, all under the same EP number. I haven't been able to find a wetland report yet from
All
that.
right, well, we would need one for, that was in the last 3 years anyway for this
Yeah.
file.
Okay.
I mean, you know, frankly, when I looked at this, it was pretty tough for what was there within the channels. Nothing screamed, this is very wet, but nothing really screamed, this is a drainage ditch, and nothing more either. If we're starting to send some projects to peer review, I mean, this one would be a good candidate for it, just to really get a good handle of what resource areas are there.
Any other comments or questions?
Did you guys have another wetland scientist go out there, or is this all based on the previous?
On that previous delineation,
Okay,
which was approved by the previous commission.
okay.
And since that time, regulations haven't changed significantly in that manner relative to delineation of anything. During that initial review, the same question was raised. So we have, back when this was done back in 2009, under the original order, those issues were raised and reviewed by the wetland scientists and the commission at that point in time. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I can't speak to what was actually said or done. But it's my understanding that the wetland scientists at that point in time, which was Chuck Heron, walked the site with the commission and reviewed all these issues as well. And the fact that once you get above the property, it's mostly just a sheer rock cliff. I would be hard pressed to say that there is any kind of a resource area for the upland upgradient of these channels.
I think we're gonna need a recent, for any NOI with resource area, we want a recent within the last 3 years. Wetland, you know, report from some kind of wetland report, and, you know, obviously it's better to have from a wetland scientist if possible.
So
I
if
mean,
we were to have-
2009, a lot could have happened.
So if we were to have the wetland scientists recertify the line and the delineation, everything like that,
Yeah, they usually do.
satisfactory to the commission's concerns relative to whether or not this is a drainage ditch and or an intermittent stream.
Well, we'll review what they say and
Yeah,
then.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
But
think
it's
that,
gonna be essentially a rehash of everything that happened.
yes, but I mean, things can change in 10 years, so.
Fair enough.
I mean, Mr. Stone, with that, if we had a wetland scientist review that swale, that's kind of in question.
Well, not a swale, but everything that's.
Right, but
out there.
that's what I'm saying.
There's 3 areas I'm questioning right now, yeah.
Okay, and what was the 3?
The 2 drainage, well, I guess
Ditches.
3 ditches that are labeled as, yeah.
Okay, and that one up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I might agree with that. I don't, me personally, I don't know if we need a third-party review, but I would feel much more comfortable if we had a wetland scientist, whether it's Mr. Karen, who did it originally, go back and reflag it and recertify and specifically look at everything on that. Would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. right, anybody in the audience like to speak on this NOI? Second time and third time. All right, we'll leave the public hearing open. Yeah, I think the commission would like to see that, if, you know, like if we could address those 3 areas.
Yeah, I'll have them, the flags are rehung per the located plan, or per the plan, so
Yeah,
those flags are up, it's a pretty fine channel, so those aren't gonna be moving too much.
those are, yeah,
So I'll have him write a review about all the other fun stuff out there.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate that. So we'll continue this to our, yes?
Opening this up to the public?
I did.
You did, okay.
I did, yeah.
You said
I left it open. Our next meeting is August 27th, so we'll continue it to our August 27th meeting, and hopefully you can get a report to us.
Definitely.
Should be good to go. All right. All right, our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent for Mary Lou Corliss to demolish a dwelling with associated structures, then build a single-family home with associated driveway and utilities. The house will be located within the 50-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. Address is 34 Tolman Ave, map 28, parcel 249-30, DEP 199-1090. Someone representing the applicant.
Yes, sir. For the record, Chris Anderson, Manning Engineering here on behalf of Mary Lou Corliss for the demolition and reconstruction of a single-family home at 34 Tolman. Just to orientate ourselves here, we have Tolman Ave running along the top of the page, with 13 being further towards the, I guess, the right of the page, if you will. Currently, the property contains a single-family home that's been in a state of disrepair for a significant number of years. Much of the property used to contain a lot of sheds storing various materials and whatnot. And the remaining area was primarily grassland with some woodland areas along the perimeter of the site. There is a border vegetated wetland that runs along the northern and western property lines with their corresponding buffer zones. As part of the proposed construction, the existing structure will be demolished and removed, and the area regraded and smoothed out, and will proceed for permanent stabilization. In its place, a new single-family home will be constructed further away from the wetlands. Currently, the existing building is sitting right around the 30-foot line of the buffer zone. With our revised layout, the house is going to be swinged around to about the 60 and try to put it far away from the wetlands possible on the property. Access to the site will be via a paved driveway, which will be located in the approximate location of the existing driveway. In addition to that, the appropriate sewer and water connections will be made with the infrastructure that Tolman Ave. Along the limit of work, we'll be installing silt fence and straw wattles to be the permanent demarcation line for the proposed work and as erosion control measures. Beyond that, there's not a significant grade changing. The site is relatively flat and even, so we're not anticipating significant erosion issues, but whatnot, we're still installing the silt fence and straw wattles to prevent anything that may or may not happen on the site. That's pretty much the entire gist of the project. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Is it the same tree line gonna be maintained?
Yeah, so there's a couple little random tufts of dead trees throughout the site. Those are going to be removed just because of the nature of construction. But besides that, there'd be a little bit of clearing to get the driveway in. But beyond that, some tree lines are going to remain the same.
Now, how close to the property line is the actual resource area?
It's
Sorry, I'm like right in your way.
sorry.
Even
I keep trying to move myself and I keep being in the way.
It essentially runs right along the property line, a few feet in on the property
Okay.
line, and then it dives out into the abutting property, and then comes back up to a.
Okay, I see it now, yeah.
And I did do some augering along the wetland line, and it's very conservative compared to what's there. There's a lot of fill, around the current house there. I've also seen the site before before Mary Lou went to work, cleaning it up, and I believe, there was 11 sheds that were taken down that were jam-packed of garbage. There was garbage in the wetlands that, she hand pulled out, as well as all the other debris that she's been cleaning up on that site. So just So Stephanie been working at bettering the area and, you know, protecting the wetland. She's been pulling mattresses, punching bags. So,
And let's just say the structure is,
it's falling apart.
it's a very nice structure. Sense of sarcasm in there.
Now, would it be possible to just leave a little bit of a buffer between, it looks like, is that gonna all be lawn? Is that the proposal?
Yeah, it's currently like a lawn area right now, tall grass kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the erosion control is still sitting around 25 feet off that line. So it's no significant grading changes or anything is gonna happen along this area. So it'll remain pretty much as is.
Where's the silt line?
The silt fence line, on the one,
Yep.
that is the driveway.
So it's that
down.
line,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it kind of matches the buffer zone line type, unfortunately, but then it runs along the property line, which the wetland's still, 25 feet off the property, and then dives back up, loops itself back around.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking where it almost touches the property line. It'd be nice to have some kind of buffer.
Well, technically
Maintain.
that's off our property, so we can't touch that.
No, I'm saying just to leave a buffer at the property line so that they don't have lawn going directly to, like abutting the wetland. You know what I'm saying? Like
So you
when it's all done, if you left
wildflowers
like a 10-foot strip, just that gets left to, put a few trees in, let some vegetation, like.
Let that should take its course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is that something that, it would keep encroachment, it would keep things from encroaching into the wetland, it would give a little bit of buffer, so there's not lawn fertilizers and things like, or anything like that lawn clippings getting dumped into a wetland over time. Is that something?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, other than that, I think it sounds like it's a great improvement, and I definitely appreciate all the efforts of getting
So to speak to Angel's point, just looking at the site when you're out there walking the wetland line, over time, somebody filled in the area and whoever hung the wetland flags at that point just really went right along the toe of the slope. But if you look at the vegetation, community is further downhill.
We had a site walk today there, Larry, and basically, especially along the southerly border, Angela did quite a few, we were down a couple feet anyways, and it was all fill and
with glass.
glass and
Oh.
sticks,
Yeah.
and it was definitely not wetland soil.
Yeah.
And you did a couple up against the westerly side. The flags are old, that were out there, right?
They're within the last year or so.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah, they're done in previous owners.
Oh, okay. But basically, it's along the vegetation line, so what he's showing on the plan is pretty accurate. I personally think the plan as shown is fine. Just, it's pretty flat, and you saw the condition of the building.
I also wanted to add that there's also a cesspool that's gonna be cracked and filled, if you're looking at the plan to the left.
It doesn't really show up that
Yeah,
way.
but it doesn't show up on
Okay.
there, you can't see it, but, that's right there as well. So I don't know if, it might be better to seed it immediately and stabilize it while they're building the house, and then kind of let the buffer regrow
Yeah.
after and
I mean, what I'm talking about is just kind of that one little corner. I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole length of the property. Just that sort of one area to
Oh,
the
yeah.
right,
Right.
with the two, yeah.
Yeah, right in this area.
Yeah, and
Basically
then
the house
there's
is-
another spot on the right where what looks like the wetland comes right up to the property line too.
Is there?
No,
No, down the
Down the
bottom,
bottom, yeah.
right there. Like, it's just, yeah, if there was like a 10-foot sort of area that could be left to like regrow, so that we get,
And in this area, there is quite a few plants already growing, so just nature will take its course once it gets out of that area and stops moving stuff.
yeah. And I appreciate you moving the house further away from the resource area. A lot of times people try to just squeak it in as close as they can to.
any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay. Is this an NOI? Yes, yeah. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time? And third and final time? objection to closing the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I did see him here earlier, but I just realized he's not in the audience anymore. One of the abutters did approach us on site, as well as he did approach me in the office last week. And he wanted to just express to the commission how much he appreciates what Mary Lou Corliss has done there, and how she's really done a lot of hard work to, regrow a lot of ground, where the sheds were, letting it all grow back and pulling out all the garbage, and how much the neighborhood really appreciates it. He just wanted that to be known to the commission.
All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to issue a notice, and order of conditions with any added conditions?
I'll make a motion for a standard order of conditions to include the boilerplate and a condition that a 10-foot strip in the rear of the property. Is that, do we want to just do the corner? I don't want to, I'm only concerned where it would be like
The backyard.
the back, yeah, so it would be the whole backyard. Is that too much to ask, or
I guess I'm not fully
just
sure
like
what
an area
you
like
want
10
me to
feet
do.
on the back of the property, just to let it kind of grow back? So
Yes.
that we don't
I
have,
planted to just let it get some plants naturalizing and low growth, and I'm not gonna maintain lawn all the way around, and,
okay,
She's an avid gardener. so-
okay.
yes, I am an avid gardener. So it's gonna be my home. I plan to clean up all the glass, all the mirrors.
Good
We've
luck.
taken 70,000 pounds of trash out of that place.
Wow.
Oh, you think good luck now? No, if you saw it 3 months ago, you would have said, what's wrong with you for even doing this? But, no, it will be taken care of and respected.
And she did approach me before she even bought the property, like 7 months ago. So,
But as we saw with this property, not everyone's has the same mindset you do.
No,
So
absolutely.
if we put it in there and, that way if you sell a house years from now, it's just something that will have a little strip of land that helps protect the
I
wetland
understand.
long term.
I understand.
All right.
Do I have a second on that motion, including Ms. Giannakis' condition that there be a 10-foot buffer of natural vegetation on the southerly side of the property?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it, you done? Thank you, Angela.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you all.
Is, okay.
For the 449 Wachusett Street, they did email me today asking for a continuance.
So we will.
As well as the next one.
Okay, we will continue the NOI for 449 Wachusett Street, Assessors Map 381, to the August 24th meeting, 27th, I'm sorry.
What was the reason for that?
They just weren't able to make it due to conflicting schedules, as well as there was no DEP number, and the agenda was quite long, he said, so.
We still have to show up.
Yeah. All right, so the next one, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
so the next one's continued.
Yes.
yes,
Can we go back to the new one? Just,
yes.
I'm gonna have to leave, so I just wanna make sure.
We'll sit here for the whole time.
I didn't know they were here for that. Yes, we will do that.
For the floor, okay, just so we don't have any quorum issues going forward.
Okay. So our last new hearing is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent for the city of Leominster. This is a general right-of-way maintenance and low-impact activity to proceed under the Agent and Conservation Commission supervision for 3 years within the right-of-way and easement address city of Leominster. Is there someone representing?
Unfortunately, the representative from DPW is not able to make it tonight due to a family issue, so he did email me today, as well as I did receive the DEP file number today and DEP's comments. They stated that.
What is the DEP file number?
It is 1991093.
Okay.
And their comments were that for all proposed activities, erosion and sedimentation controls should be used as needed. Routine paving operations should widen the existing roadway and or shoulders. New swales and culvert replacements require the filing of NOIs with the Conservation Commission and Mass DEP. And at a minimum must meet the criteria contained in 310 CMR 10.53 Section 8. If a new swale or culvert is required in the event of emergency for protection of public health and safety, a NOI must be filed as soon as possible following the abatement of the emergency review swale or culvert design. And then Mr. Perini had just wanted me to let the commission know this is just the extended right-of-way maintenance. They let it overlap because they wanted to kind of add in a couple things about, trimmings in the NOI. And they wanted to really review it and just file again instead of extending the old one.
Okay. Questions, comments?
They're gonna be in next week anyway, next meeting. Are they gonna come in, or are we looking to vote on this tonight, or?
I think he was hoping that we vote on this tonight so they can get it recorded and get it, start assimilating the rest of the crew with working with the Conservation Commission on these items.
No, so can you kind of just give a summary of what kind of activities and what they're proposing for protection?
So it's basically, a lot of it I believe is exempt, is, repaving already paved roads, fixing, broken catch basins, for areas where they already have culverts kind of going in and, to scoop out any sediments, any silt breaches in there. It is all in the Google Drive.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't get it.
Yes, sorry, I was like, I'm trying to think of that,
Yeah.
I had it right with me. But they wanna, the idea for this was to kind of put them in a position where they have to work with us, where they have, and we're gonna make not just the people that work in the office, make the crews all, what an erosion control is, what it's for, and where it needs it, where it doesn't need it, as well as to make, clear that you can only do this, like the EP said, you can only, do the paved road, you can't extend the paved road, you can't widen it. And working with them a little more clearly, continuing the relationship.
So they currently have an order condition that's expired,
Yes.
and you did mention they wanted to add something. What do we?
They were just adding more specifically, being able to go in and sweep out the culverts as they become filled with silt. Because that's been an issue that they found multiple filled in culverts this year.
Okay.
Just for example, the fire station, they didn't know that was there, but if they had known, they would have been able to kind of go in there, scoop out the silt before it got to the point where it was an emergency, hopefully.
Okay.
I would just like to say that I did get a chance to read through the document,
Okay.
and I don't really want to vote on something I haven't, if it's a substantial amount of, I just want to be able to read it. And I apologize for not having got to it. I figured we would at least
There's
have.
not a lot on here.
I just figured, if Ian, to have, the engineer come in from the city to kind of explain the processes and what their best management practices are would be.
Anyone else's thoughts? Yes, sir.
Do we have butter receipts for this project?
I don't believe they do.
So no butters were notified,
No.
and the locus is
It's the entire city one.
entire city. So theoretically,
It should be
the notice of intent application, you'd notify all the butters, and if you're doing it citywide, you'd notify.
Yeah.
So, but that, I'm
That's
just,
like, 'cause the
I'm only
thing
mentioning
comes
that
to
comment to get to my point that's coming. What the city's asking for in this particular case, it really doesn't meet the legal requirements for the NOI process. The butter part of it is one. Number two, it's for future projects that you don't know about. So you're conditioning work in an area that we have no idea what it looks like, whether the resource areas are gonna be dynamic for whatever reason, or where they are, frankly, because they're not presented to us. It's no different, a DPW filing this type of application is no different than a home builder coming into us and saying, I'd like to build homes in residential lots in Leominster for the next 3 years, not sure where, but give me a blanket permit for it. It's very close to what this is asking for. As you mentioned, Angela, a lot of what's in there, and I did cursory read through the application. A lot of it could very well be exempt. Some of it may not be, but there is the opportunity, for example, in an emergency, to issue an emergency certificate. And you can always contact the commission, the chair. You've done that in the past in projects, so that part's covered there. So you have the exempt activities that are covered, the emergencies that are covered through the certificate process. Anything beyond that really should have specifics on what they're doing and where and how that impacts the Wetlands Protection Act. I'd be very concerned about giving a blanket order of conditions for something that we frankly don't know about. I mentioned the home builder analogy. Well, under the home builder analogy, I would picture that builder coming to us and saying, okay, I just built these 3 houses, can you come check them out? Rather than coming to us beforehand and saying, this is what I'd like to do. I understand from past experience here, the DPW's very strapped for manpower. They can't get to things. I haven't seen them at meetings yet. You seem to be covering for them, so I'm concerned that everything's really gonna get back to you or the commission before these things potentially would be done. We have, for instance, we did issue an emergency certificate because it was the right thing to do for the retaining wall collapse at the Newsnack Brook right down the street. But on the flip side of that, it's still unresolved 2 years later. It hasn't gotten to the final point where we can close that out. So I'd have very concerns about giving a blanket order, and quite frankly, I don't think it's legal to do so. And I can sympathize with DPWs and what they have to do permanently because I have to go through it. It's unfortunate, but they're no different than somebody working on private property. In fact, they're a little different because they have some exemptions that private owners don't have. So it's a little bit easier for them, but they can't really skirt the process entirely. And I just don't think this type of application is proper.
I guess I have a question of DPW is obviously exempt from certain things. And I don't know what that whole list is, pavement and some other stuff. And then, of course, like Brad said, there is the emergency cert. So anything above and beyond that, I guess, why couldn't they come in every project and say, hey, we want to do like they are with the culverts on Willard Street or whatever the case may be. A lot of the work that they do is exempt already to begin with. I guess I never looked at it that way, Mr. Stone, but that's how I would envision, between everything that's exempt, it's kind of like utilities, a lot of utility stuff's exempt. And so if you're exempt or emergency cert, hey, the culvert's collapsed, we need to fix it, or we need to, that's why that's there. After that, this is stuff that, hey, we need to get funding for, we need to plan, we need to, part of that should be, come in here and at least notify us, kind of an NOI each project. That's.
And I'm sure Brad can relate. I think that part of the DPW struggles with is that a lot of this stuff kind of comes up where they they'll all of a sudden have money available. For example, Willard Street, it was very difficult for them. So I think that's why they kind of wanted to do this for like the smaller projects. For example, repaving a road, they randomly get money to repave the road, but that is exempt, like you said. So I assume like the bigger projects would.
Well, I guess and I do apologize because I, along with Mr. Giannakis, did not read the entire NOI. I'd like to just review before I vote on what is exempt, just so I have a better idea of, if I'm thinking 80% of what I'm thinking they're going to do is exempt or fall under emergency certification, then I would want more specifics, as I understand things happen quickly with grants and funding and end of fiscal years and spending money. I understand that, but there's a lot of NOIs that come in front of us. We vote on it that night because they have the info and they're ready to go. So I would have liked to at least pass on this tonight on a vote, just so I can do a little bit more review. because I think I might agree that it gives them a little too much freedom, I guess, for the lack of a better term. So,
I respectfully request a continuance to the August 27th meeting on behalf of DPW.
okay.
I just, on this real quick, I think it's good to have something in writing of what their best management practices are when they're, say, cleaning out, if they have to clean, whatever, if there's a basin that has to be cleaned.
Yeah, like one of the things you mentioned, Angela, is, you want to add, cleaning a swell and cleaning some other stuff. And I agree, I mean, that's something that doesn't get done and should get done, and, it's just, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's, next thing you know, they're not cleaning out a swell, they're widening it by 10 feet,
Yeah.
and they're making it 4 feet deeper, so they don't have to clean it as much, and, how is that gonna?
Yeah, if there was a document that said, hey, when you're going out and, we have a catch basin that has to be cleaned out, like, here's our best management practices, and like, everything I do at work, everything there is validated, because it's medical, so maybe the person doing the work has to sign off and say, I've read the best management practices, so that when I go out and do the job, that, I'm gonna follow it, but
Right.
that's not the same as a notice of intent.
And just because they say we're gonna do this, and technically under the act it's only exempt from a permit if they follow
Well,
those
right,
best
right,
management practices
right.
and stuff, and kind of approaching it with them that way, that's kind of the big concern with a blanket permit, in my mind, just because I've worked with large energy companies before, and it's always like, that's the toughest part, is trying to pick apart what's actually exempt, what isn't in a resource area, what is in a resource area, and it tends to get very jumbled together because people don't like to pay close attention. So, I agree that, it may be better to have individual permits, I guess it depends, but that gives us a lot more power to be able to pick apart what areas are really important to pay attention to. So, I just wanted to add that.
Okay. If you want to speak with Mr. Cremerini and
Yeah.
let him know where we stand, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just for the record, I'm going to excuse myself from the rest of tonight's meeting.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Take a 2-minute break.
Can I just continue this one here? And then we'll take a break.
If you need signatures, I'll come in at some other point.
Take care, Brett. Our last hearing, new hearing is for 644 Pleasant Street, Assessors Map 406, Parcel 1C. They have requested that we continue that to the August 27th meeting. So that will be continued until then. Did they request that, or was that?
There was an error with the original agenda, and then because of the length of the meeting as well, they said that they were fine with continuing it, and they wanted to get a site visit in, so.
Okay, all right. So they're well aware it's going to be continued?
Yes.
Okay. We will take a break, and we will come back with continued hearings. Thank you. All right, we're back. Our continued hearings. I'm going to open the next two up at the same time. It is for address is Lot 3, Mary Ave Extension, map 419, Lot 23, 199 and 1086. And the second one is for address 1157R, map 419, Lot 23, DEP 199, 1085. So where do we sit at this point?
So there's still been no update. I did speak to Mr. Morrow, who was supposed to be here tonight. But basically, they haven't gotten their consultant back out there to confirm what our peer reviewer has stated.
Okay.
I already paid the peer reviewer bill because it's been quite a few months since we originally went out.
Okay.
Also, quite a few commissioners have missed meetings, and I don't believe we can even vote on this hearing, even when everyone's back and we're at our full force. So I believe at the next meeting, we should make a whole seven board, we should obviously discuss it with Whitman, Bingham, and Mr. Morrow, but to, deny it and have them refile with their new information would be my recommendation, so that we can start kind of clean with the quorum issues.
Okay. I would agree with that because it's been going on for so long with new members and old members and people being held and stuff. It's quite a mess, and right now, I don't think there is a resolution available, so.
I would like to discuss it with them first and let them know why before we vote on it.
Okay, so we will continue it to the August 27th meeting. And if you could either notify them or have them present,
Yeah.
but I would like to discuss it at the next meeting, either way, whether they're here or not, but just let them know what our plan of attack is. Okay. Our next hearing is for, the address is Lot E, Orchard Hill Park Drive, map 386, Lot 4-1C, DEP 199-1083. Obviously, Mr. Morrow is not here again.
I believe that one also has very similar issues. They were all opened on, I believe, the same meeting, March 12th.
Okay.
I did speak to our consultant, Art, and he hadn't heard anything back from Matt, and Matt was supposed to kind of go back out and resubmit the plans and review them.
Because our consultant had done the review, and
Yes.
reviewed that review.
And he just wants to review, the final plans that will be sent out, so I have to go through all the meeting minutes and see which ones I do know we did continue it quite a few times, without even opening it, so I have to kind of go through all the old meeting minutes and decide whether or not we'll have a quorum for that one as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because these are kind of so old,
It might just be better to.
it might be better to just start from scratch, seeing we have peer reviews and a lot of our questions have been answered, at least from our guys, so.
Yeah.
If we could start from scratch.
One thing on this one, it was pointed out while we were on the sidewalk that it appears that there was two areas with wetlands.
Right.
The one on the right, as you were facing the property, where the road, that path is, it looked as though, there was still so much snow on the ground in like March that, that was right up against the wetland, and obviously there was snow being pushed into that wetland. That wetland was the one that said, that was determined that at the time that it didn't have the egg masses that the one on the left did. My concern is that we're going into another winter. I don't know what's gonna happen with this project, but we need to make sure that.
Yeah, you did bring this concern to me during that site visit, and
Yeah.
I had trouble talking between Target and the Scotty, trying to figure out who maintained it. I finally got an answer from the Scotty, as well as I spoke to the owner of all developments, who spoke to Target, who does handle their own. So I spoke to Target, I spoke to the Scotty, and I spoke to the main guys. They are gonna be moving the snow to the other side, obviously away from it. That would be honest.
I just wanna make sure that
There's some
we've
sort of-
notified them so that if we see it again,
Yeah.
but maybe we can put up
A sign.
a sign that says like wetlands or,
Yeah, I
a
can-
guy in a plow,
Right.
at 2 o'clock in the morning isn't gonna see a sign this big though.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
I'll talk to Target again, since they're responsible for the parking.
Yeah, maybe they could, people have been putting up those like, whatever, 8x10 signs that say no
No
snow
dumping.
storage or something like
Yeah.
that.
No plowing or.
I can give them a call this week or
Because
sometime.
that's a very sensitive area, and I don't wanna have to,
Yeah.
if they just let the people know that are plowing, that they
There's a
can't do it, and
little
there's a
hole there, yeah.
visual that says, do not put snow here, I think that would,
Absolutely, makes sense.
Okay.
thank you very much.
All right, so we'll continue it to the next hearing. And actually, if you could hopefully make that communication with Target, maybe we can
Yeah.
address
Wrap it all
that
up
by
in
the
one
next
meeting.
27th meeting, so.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on to our regular meeting, certificates of compliance, 419 Pleasant Street. It's a reissuance. It was issued in 1987 for all the lots, each lot receiving its own partial COC. They were not all recorded and is causing issues with the deed. And they are requesting reissuance them to clear the deed. So So explain what's going on.
So this has been, actually, this spring, this is an issue, I've probably gotten close to 33 or more phone calls about people, you know, who don't have a COC, but they have, you know, Form 8A, but they don't know what happened. This project specifically, it looks like on October 13th in 1987, there was this letter sent out, and I can pass it on for you guys to read, and it's, I'll just read it, from the Conservation Commission. It's signed by a notary. Please be advised that this commission hereby releases lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13 from the order of conditions presently in force and recorded at the Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds in Book 1566, page 567, and having DEQE, file number 199216. No portion of any of these lots is a wetland, or is any portion of the lots within 100 feet of a wetland area. This was kind of for all 14 lots to be created. And going through the file, Larry knows the issues with the Office of Conservation, how it's kind of stored in the closet for a while. I have certificates of compliance for lot 14, lot 6, lot 7, and lot 9 that I found, and I've been searching all the Pleasant Street files to kind of recollect them. But unfortunately, this says hold up closings for people, and it's already stressful enough. And I know we have reissued certificates of compliance in the past. So I was asking the commission to reissue the partial certificates so I can send them out to the homeowners to record, to clear up the deed, and then I would also have them on file in the office for future sales of home requests or records requests.
Okay.
Can I ask why they're partials if they're not in a resource area?
So there was an NOI for Oakland Hollow subdivision for Braid property incorporated back in 87, I believe. You know, there's some watershed map information here, and I think just because of the size of the project is why they had to. When you look at there's all these different calculations. I don't specifically know because I wasn't around in 1987, I wasn't born yet. But
That's
the
not an
commission did
excuse.
issue these, there is a notary signed letter, you know.
Is the meeting on YouTube?
They had, I'm serious, I'm sorry.
These lots are like, these are.
They're all, I went out and visited the site, they are all fully growth, there's no issues that would really pertain to us, they're kind of all really high up as well from the road. If you're driving on Pleasant Street, that yard that has that nice large retaining wall in the corner, that's a mile high.
Yeah, the one for sale.
Yeah. You know,
But are
that's kind of, that's where this house is, that specifically brought this issue to my attention, and I found this file and this letter, which I don't normally find something that says there was this issuance. Usually I don't find anything, so I would like to,
So all the
Clear up.
COCs were issued.
all of them, for lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Partial, so I'm only asking that we do the ones that are included in this letter to close this out, because it was back in 1986.
Okay. And you found them for some of them?
Yeah, a couple of them I found,
So basically you want us to reissue the COCs for
That are
the ones that are on that letter, those lots in those
Yeah.
letters that you don't currently have.
yeah, so then I can mail them out to the homeowners, explain the situation, so they can record them at the registry of deeds, so we don't have this problem, hopefully for the next agent or me in 5 years.
But those lots are Oakland Hollow, right? They
Yes.
created Oakland.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the creation of
Okay,
Oakland
yeah,
Hollow,
all right.
and that one house on Pleasant Street.
Is it
Yeah.
it's one filing for the whole project?
Yeah, that was before, you know.
That's why
really-
it has to be incomplete, because
Yeah.
you can't give if you gave a complete certificate of compliance, it would be for the project as a whole.
Yeah, so that's why, I think that's why they did partials for each lot.
Yeah.
Because I just wanna do right by our community.
Do you have the list of the lots that we are missing?
I do. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 and 7. We need 10, 11, 12, and 13. I do have a plan in here, so I'm gonna have to spend some time matching each lot to the physical GIS address. But that should take me a couple hours.
And those ones are the ones that are all physically out of the resource area?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think just to kind of close up, one DEP number would be nice. Or it's already been closed up, but just to
Yeah.
officially close it up.
I didn't realize that was in 1987. I thought it was like in the 90s.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm seeking, I mean, I don't know what the timing is on this, but I'm actually representing a homeowner of 419 Pleasant Street. She's looking to close on the sale of her house on the 15th. And I can show you the plan if you'd like, and I have the WPA form for specific just to her parcels.
If it's one of these,
It is
It'll
one
be
of
covered,
these,
yeah, and
yes.
I'll have it to you
That's it.
tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So I know exactly which one that
I
is.
just want to make sure that it lists correctly.
Yeah, I have all this information in here. I have all ready to go.
All right. Excellent.
right, so what were the lots again? That way we can just make the.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
And those are lot numbers?
Yes, but then, yeah, which is basically all the lots that were included in this order of conditions.
And then you
Wait,
said,
it's for the order, but are they in the resource area? Because if they're in the resource area, we gotta make sure that all the conditions,
Yeah, I did go out there and there's,
right, but if there's an as-built required, or if there's any other
Yeah.
things, those
well,
things
I
have to
believe
be.
back then they didn't require as-built in 87.
Yeah.
They just didn't require this until the 90s, so technically, I did contact DEP about this, we can't require an as-built.
No, I'm saying, I don't know
Oh,
what's
okay,
in
I
the
was like-
initial order, so we would.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're issuing
Finish.
these, we need to make sure the conditions of the
There's-
order conditions are met.
intermittent stream back here, but I have been out there, recently I went out there on the 11th. And I went through everyone's, backyards and looked around and nothing's disturbed,
Yeah.
Doesn't even look like, I believe this actually has been developed already since then.
Yeah. Well, it's just more, we wanna make sure that the conditions of, the order of conditions are met. before-
Yeah, so,
Like, are there any special conditions? Because I know, like, back then, there were some areas that, I know, like, there was the Walmart area. There's some condos, and they were supposed to do a wildlife habitat study,
okay,
and then that never got performed. So technically, and it was supposed to be done prior to getting a certificate of compliance. So like, if the conditions of the order conditions haven't been met, we shouldn't be issuing the certificate of
but
compliance.
we're not issuing, we're just re-signing the ones that already been issued. So the commission back in 87 already issued it. It's not like we're issuing it, they didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
So, it's more of just a.
Yeah, we're just going through, okay,
housekeeping.
yeah.
And I understand what you're saying,
Yeah,
I
no,
do.
no, you're right, I'm overthinking it, so.
It's okay, I'm like,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
we hope the 87 commission
Did they do
did their due
diligence?
diligence and actually did all the, and so. Well, do I have a motion to reissue certificate of compliance for, what was it called at that point? 'Cause it's not 419, because that's just
Yeah,
one of the lots.
It was the Oakwood Hollow subdivision off of Pleasant Street,
And what was the DEP file number?
199216.
Okay.
I will make a motion to reissue the partial certificates of compliance for DEP file number 199-216, lot numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, and 13, as per the initial issuance by the Leominster Conservation Commission back in, what was the year they did this?
1987.
In 1987.
Do I have a second on that motion or something different?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? All right, all set. Thank you.
And could you just double check for me this point? I just want to make absolutely certain that this is one of
She has the big plan and-
parcels
Do they have lot numbers on your plans?
So I'm actually shown as parcel A1 and tract 1 on this.
So that would be lot 14 and lot 13.
Okay, so different.
Yeah,
Different plan.
sometimes what happens is that when plans that you have won't match the plans that are submitted
Yes.
with the NOI, because those are usually submitted to the planning board, and they don't usually, back then they wouldn't really work as coherent as they do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
You're
I just
welcome.
wanted to make sure.
No, I understand. It's been hard.
All right. This gentleman's been sitting here a long time, and I believe he's for 9 Penny Lane.
Yes.
All right. Any issues with moving enforcement out? All right, 9 Penny Lane. Where do we stand?
So I did meet with Mr. Coydu. He stopped by my office this morning. He's not here. His representative, he hired Whitman and Bingham to represent him and bring in files. I did explain to him that, this is an enforcement order, it's not really filing, but we need to know what happened in order to pursue whatever action needs to come next. And he said, well, he'll be at the next meeting. I said, I did tell him, I was like, well, the homeowner's gonna be there at this meeting, so you should come too and have a discussion, even if you don't know what you're talking about. You should be there too to kind of explain.
Is there any reason why the homeowner needs to continue to come? Because we're not really holding him accountable for anything at this point.
It's only if he wants, only if he wants to.
I think I'll probably come just for more oversight.
Okay, I don't mind you here, it's just sometimes
It is his property, I think whatever action we take, we really should
Yeah.
include him.
Yeah. I'll still come. Just to even just show face that I'm showing up for enforcement.
Okay.
Because it's obviously the builder's not holding up his end of the deal, which is track record, but that's a whole other story.
Okay. So are they planning to be at the August 27th meeting?
Yes.
And do they plan to have a plan?
Some sort of answer, yes. That's what I've been told, that they have the answers, so.
Okay. If you could touch base with them before the August 27th meeting,
Sure.
and if they're not going to come, if you could notify the homeowner so he doesn't have to waste an evening gracing his... It's not a waste. He's learning a lot about the Conservation Commission at all these meetings, I can tell you that. So,
Absolutely.
I just don't want to waste a lot of people's time.
Okay.
If need be, so. So we will continue this hearing to the August 27th meeting, and hopefully we can get some resolution.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Do you mind if we skip to Hill Street?
Yeah, we can skip to Hill Street. So what's going on with Hill Street?
So I was working with Mr. Ricker from DPW and Mr. Cormier. They had some granite that they pulled up from when they redo the sidewalks.
Yep.
They usually get new granite. So what they did is they lined the front of the area with little granite blocks. It looks very nice. They avoided.
Where's the pictures?
I sent them to you.
I should probably look at all the files.
I'll post some pictures. I wasn't able to contact the Ericksons. If you guys remember, he had the trailer there. He did get us permission to move it, so they just moved it onto his property,
Okay.
off the city property. These old. Pictures. But yeah, they made it so that when they need to go out there and do the trimming of the trees, that they'll be able to just take the machine and kind of move the block of granite and head up there and do the trimming. But no car is really gonna be able to drive over that without damaging their car.
I don't see anything on here for Hill Street.
I thought I texted it to you.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, I didn't put it on Google Drive.
Oh.
It was either texted or emailed it, but please hold, it's on my phone.
All right, well, while she looks for that, I just had a kind of a thought. I know last time there was a discussion that the city rec department wouldn't pay for the sign the kiosk unless it matched the rest of the city.
Exactly.
That wasn't the recreation department, that was the trail stewards.
Okay, trail stewards, okay. So, but a thought that I had was, what if we just use the one that the rest of the city uses, and kiosks are double-sided? So we would have, as long as it was double-sided, we had the ability to use the second side for anything we wanted. It doesn't have to be front to back, we could angle it in such a way that,
It's kind of on both sides.
yeah, so it would be more visible.
Right.
So I did bring that up with Mr. O'Brien when we were meeting, but they use the back side for items as well, I guess, for the Minusnack trailhead. The larger map that shows like all the trails, and then they have their big trail in front along with like their rules, kind of what they have at Elm Street, but they have more on the back side. So I don't know, I do know Mr. Stone did have a conversation with him, but it hasn't really been brought
Yeah, we don't
back
wanna,
to me. I don't really wanna be put in a
we
position
don't
where.
wanna plaster the place, we just want a.
We want a sign.
A kiosk,
sign.
not-
Right.
We don't
So
want 2 or
I'm-
3 kiosks.
Right.
Sorry, I have a lot of photos. So I'm working with CTEI. They're just super busy finishing up the recreation department's project. They did their whole addition. So they're working on that, and then they'll be able to do the kiosk for us. Here it is. That's my hair, sorry. So they kind of mowed it, they lined it along that way, along to Erickson's property. Oh, that's so fun. Yes, look at me.
You never sent it to me.
I ate a lot of burritos. So that's on
Oh,
top,
okay.
and they stayed away from the swale and the catch basin.
Yeah.
And then this is the kind of, so it's kind of a whole front where you can
Okay,
just
yeah.
pull in and park.
It's a very nice looking furniture. Oh, yeah, it's nice. That worked out perfect.
It's good that they save that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
they're recycling.
Well, that's not cheap either.
Yeah, I can
That
imagine.
granite is not cheap.
Drive up there.
I'm like, yeah, well, I'm here already, so.
Yeah.
And then, they seem to like the
Yeah,
boundaries, they kind of lined it like that,
That's
so
like way better.
Yeah,
Now
so-
it's like,
it's still a natural area, you won't have
I
to
think you should put Mr.
pave it, so
Giannakis
just gonna wait
on each granite, and, you know.
So, that's where they're at that, I'm still trying to figure out the kiosk situation, Mr. Stone did say he had a conversation with Mr. O'Brien, so I'm just kind of waiting to see if we can work with them, or if we'll end up working at CTI this fall.
I just, yeah, just with going through I always call it the trade school, but going with them, I know they always backlogged with tons of projects, I just,
No, I understand,
Have you-
we're on the list next after the recreation department's addition is
Oh.
finished. They just had to like literally build
right,
like a double, you know, your brother's there. They built a huge addition on,
Right.
so,
so we're next in line when
that's
they're
what I was
done.
told, so,
Okay. And they're
working
gonna
on it with Judy.
build the sign that we,
Yeah, and then we'd pay for the, actual
the
material
actual,
from that sign.
yeah. Okay.
Now, they do have, I mean, I don't even know if they'd be interested, but they do have a graphic arts department there that does really good work.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I know that it was sort of as I left the schools, they were getting new
cool.
equipment, and they have like these large format things, so,
They might be able to make
and
a
they're,
sign
yeah,
there.
they've got some really good, like, they're upper level kids, by the time they get to be seniors, are pretty skilled.
Yeah,
So that might be a way to give,
back to the
give,
community.
and get, yeah, we can get some, their kids some experience and things that they could put on
That'd be
there.
awesome. I'll call
Because
and ask.
I mean, way back, we know exactly what we wanted to be on the sign, but we wanted it to look like the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, so,
But yeah, like, if we could tie it into the rest of the city, I think that would be beneficial, because even if the city doesn't wanna cooperate, I mean, maybe we can.
Well, it's not really, the trail
Well,
stewards are
trail
not the
stewards,
city,
that's right,
they're a
I'm
different
the trail
entity, sorry, I just
stewards.
wanted to clarify.
If they don't wanna participate, we could still keep things uniform, because if eventually people wanna use that property to access the trail system, we still would like them to know how to
Yeah.
get there.
I
You
think
know
just
what I
kind
mean?
of figure out how to do it and how to
Yeah.
add our additional information that we have
Yeah,
discussed.
so if we could work something out to maybe get them to do one side,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe we'll have a meeting with them.
yeah, because it would be, I think it would be beneficial to tie this into the rest of the city. We don't want it to be isolated, we want to
Yeah.
show that the city is linked with trails, like if they're planning to, because you can hike all over the city,
Yeah, you really can.
it's just a matter of being able to find your way. So the more information we can provide people, the more likely they are to use the property.
now, did you, I guess I lost my train of thought, so just keep us in the loop on the CTEI, I'm just a little concerned that, it comes next June and They haven't got to us yet, and wait a whole nother year.
Yeah, I mean, they're kids, so I mean, they're learning and
They're all very skilled.
Yeah.
No, I'm
see their addition.
not worried, I'm
They're a
not,
school, they're not a business, so we
Yeah,
can't
so
hold
we
them,
can't-
they're not,
Right.
they're not gonna
Okay, I was like,
develop the same timelines.
hey.
they don't work at the same
Yeah.
pace as
Yeah, they have
business
to
would
be-
work, you know.
They have
so-
other
Sorry.
things they
I was
have to
like,
do.
nice.
It's not like just a shop to work, they gotta learn
Yeah, they're
the
learning.
different skills and.
Right.
Sorry.
Is any of the work going to happen between now and the kiosk sign going up at?
Other than maybe just regular mowing.
Yeah, just maintenance,
Yeah.
but,
We don't need to go up there for another 7 years to do the trees, so.
oh, they did trees?
They did,
Last
yeah,
year.
they took some, yeah,
Did
so.
they? I haven't been up there since
Yeah.
last.
Yeah, the one thing though
Yeah.
too, that there was, I know that we talked about getting rid of some of the encroaching trees to keep
Yeah.
it a meadow. And I know in the past there were, I think someone from DPW back, I think it was when I was actually the acting agent, so that was like, I don't know, like 12 years ago, said he would actually, with permission, would actually take some of those trees.
Yeah,
If he could take the wood himself,
I believe, I don't know,
if they still,
the gentleman who did, what he does, his machine, it cut and mulched them. So he did, he's mulched them, kind of left them in the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But I can see, I let him know if he wants to take them.
you know, because
And-
it's the birch,
Actually,
the softwoods, the birches, the
Yeah.
poplar, you know, that kind of stuff. Because what's happening is they're just, that,
Coming out in the field.
in the last like 15 years, you know, that, it's just shrunk, you know?
Yeah.
So if we can just keep it,
Keep it
you know,
open.
keep it, you know, we wanna keep all the hardwood and all the original trees, but any of that encroaching stuff. Although I don't think that softwood is as valuable, is it?
No, I don't, and I actually noticed that I don't think they can actually take it as part of kind of ethics commission rules of working in the city. Technically, we can't take
Oh, okay.
anything that belongs to the city. Like I can take this pen home, so, and I won't.
I'm just thinking it'd be a way to
Yeah, there's
kinda
a way to
keep-
reuse it,
You know, rather than waiting every 7 years, you know, we could actually be pecking away at it over the next.
yeah, so I can work with, Mr. Clark on kind of getting a plan to kind of go through with all the soft trees. So, I went through quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Is that what they did, just went and cleaned it?
Yeah, with the, no, they just done the ones that Larry had
chipped it?
marked, all the ones that Larry had marked.
And you just went and chipped it and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
the dinosaur is what they call it.
Okay. Would you guys like to add anything, or do you have any issues with the parking area that the DPW put in, or anything like that? Okay.
I felt they stayed away from that, catch basin pretty well, so.
So yeah, at this point, we'll wait on you, Angela, to figure out what the kiosk's going on, and that'll be our next project, I guess, on that, so. All right, we are good to go. So you're probably looking, what's now, August? Oh yeah, so it's not school yet pretty soon,
Yes,
so.
August 28th.
So maybe this fall we'll get to it. All right, perfect. Let's stay on project review, 66 Granite Street Conservation Plan Review. Go ahead. Were you gonna add anything?
Do you wanna, inform the commission about, or do you want me to?
No, I'll do it. Basically, I asked Angela to do a little research, and 66 Granite Street, the owner back in at least 2000 was Mr. Zani, who's the current owner. There was, I believe was it an enforcement order? Or-
It was like a unofficial enforcement followed by an RDA, which is then followed by a DOA issued by the commission,
Okay.
which then got appealed to the state.
Okay. But at the time, Matt Morrow was the conservation agent at the time. And if some of you don't know, there's a lifetime ban. Explain that, how a lifetime
So
ban
the way
works.
the lifetime ban was explained to me is, for example, if I'm the agent and I issue an order or a DOA or an enforcement order to, say, Larry for building a house, and then I become a consultant and 10 years later, Larry still owns the house and Larry wants to do assembly of the same project, I cannot represent him. It's a forever ban, but for example, Larry sells the house and Amanda buys it and she wants to build something there, I could technically represent her as long as it wasn't the same plans and it wasn't the same owner.
Correct. So with Mr. Morrow being the conservation agent at the time, this enforcement order, it's the same owner and the same property. I did review the order, I'll just call it that, and there was still a lot of the same issues back then as we have here. I notified Mr. Morrow through email that I thought there was a conflict of interest and that he was kind of overstepping his ban, and that Mr. Zany should potentially hire a new consultant to represent him, because I didn't feel comfortable with having Mr. Morrow represent him now, with him being the agent at the time the enforcement came out in 2000. So that's kind of where it stood. You know, Mr. Morrow responded back to me, said he was going to look into it and talk to Mr. Zany and either make a recommendation to him or talk to the ethics group in Boston, or however all that works. So that's kind of where that issue stands. I just felt that, especially after reading the order from, it was November 15th, 2000, that a lot of the same issues that we've seen, drainage going into Moosenock Brook, there was some issues then. You know, some of them might not be exactly the same, but you know, the excavation of a pond from the brook and a lot of that kind of stuff. It seemed like he was representing something that he'd enforced back 19 years ago. So I don't know where it stands, but he's been kind of notified that at least I had an issue with him representing him. So whether he's going to continue to represent him or he's going to get a new representative, I don't know.
From my conversation with Mr. Morrow, he did appreciate you reaching out to him. He felt very complimented that you reached out to him personally rather than approach him in a public forum first. He said he knew the perfect person to represent him. That was the last I heard last week.
Okay. So obviously the conservation plan, which, you know, most of us, I'm not sure if you were on the commission at that point, the conservation plan was supposed to address a lot of the issues. They didn't address really any of the issues. And now there's some new issues, which is under enforcement, about whether there was some drainage or irrigation installed. Again, that this had to do with potential site walk that we were invited to. So I kind of put a stop to the site walk, because I kind of said, well, if you have a conflict of interest, I'd rather not you be there. You know, let's stop it before there's any issues and it gets too far down the road. So that's why we didn't proceed with the site walk, because they did invite us to the site walk, but I said I didn't feel comfortable until this got resolved. Because right now we don't know if it was drainage or irrigation. He said it's irrigation. Is what the last complaint, I guess, was. Like I said, he did invite us on there, but unless we have a new representative other than the owner, I think it would be beneficial for us to wait. Comments, questions?
Is there just someone from the Farm Bureau or whatever that could just come in and answer these questions? I mean, it seems like we're going back and forth, getting the runaround. There's got to be that, you know, they have these outreach people that farmers can reach out to.
Yeah.
Is it possible to just have somebody come in and?
Is there an agricultural expert that we could reach out to at a DEP level or at a, I don't even know what to call it, because that's what you're getting at, right? To say, hey, look, this is what we have a question with. Because DEP wetlands is not agriculture as experts. I'm not, no one's, you know. I think that would help clear up a lot of stuff, because when it comes to exemptions and kind of like the DPW, we're exempt and we're not exempt, and that's the thing. I mean, if someone can come in and say, you know, no, all this irrigation or drainage he putting is exempt and here's the rules, then we can have a discussion on that. But right now, there's no one I mean, the way I read it, I know the way you've read it, I know the way a lot of us read it. Amanda, I'm not sure if you were, it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's been going on, so.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't here when all this
You
started.
know, we read it a certain way, and Mr. Zani and Mr. Morrow read it completely differently. And we were reading the exact same documentation, and no one could say this is the definitive ruling. So, I don't know who that would be. Do you know anybody at DEP that could answer that, or at least say, we have this agricultural issue, can you send us in the right direction?
Yeah, I can
You know?
give a call and talk to a couple of people who have been there for a while. So a lot of the people who have been there, they've dealt with agricultural through experience.
Yeah.
But they don't really have an agricultural specialist.
Right.
Even if it's somebody, I bet Western Mass has a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know,
someone can come
farming.
in.
I mean, they have a group. I mean, me personally, I've talked to the agricultural department because of my nonprofit. which
Yeah.
The dog stuff falls under that. So they could, it does. Dog food falls under agricultural. So they do have a group, you know, the Mass GOV, you know. It's just, you gotta get to the right person though, you know, so. I mean, the guy I dealt with was dog shelters and dog food, and I'm sure there's enough farms, like you said, especially western part of
Yeah,
the state, that there's gotta be some sort of expert that they fall under,
Yeah.
that could at least, you know, help.
Even if it was just to address our questions in writing, even if if some from Western Mass isn't gonna wanna necessarily drive out here on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock, but.
True. But I'll reach out and see what I can muster up.
Yeah, and I know most of the people you're dealing with are wetlands people, and they have no idea.
Yeah.
But they're gonna talk about it under their jurisdiction of their
Yeah.
plans, but at least give you the right person. So, I think that would help solve a lot of our issues if we can get a ruling on
What?
what's exempt and what's not exempt, what should we be looking at and what shouldn't we be looking at. Because right now, we're looking at it as a wetland and property owner. And without knowing what's truly exempt.
It's really gonna be hard to.
Right. I mean, you were a consultant, do you know everything that was exempt as agricultural? No. So, you know.
The energy companies don't tend to go through
Correct.
a lot of agricultural land, so.
So, but, so at this point, we're waiting on something back from Mr. Zani and his new representative, and Mr. Morrow, and see how that's gonna go. Mr. Morrow was supposed to be here tonight but couldn't make it. Do we know, does he know of a August 27th meeting?
He should, he was supposed to be here tonight, so.
Okay. You could inform him of that. That would be great. All right. Let's go all the way back to the top. Communications. What is this? It says recommendation for city council on items C12, C13 from August 12, 2019, city council meeting for August 26, 2019 city council meeting. What does that mean?
So at last night's city council meeting, let me pull it up here real quick. The city council had voted to ask for our recommendation in regards to the rail trail. The specific items are C12, I'll just read it. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, petition the Honorable City Council to consider acquiring by eminent domain permanent and temporary easements on certain properties located adjacent or near the city-owned Twin Cities Rail Trail in connection with the Twin Cities Rail Trail construction project. The properties affected by the taking are identified more particularly in Schedule A of the order of taking, by which the city will acquire the easements enclosed here with and shown on plan entitled Easement Plan of Twin Cities Rail Trail, Leominster and Fitchburg, Mass., prepared for the city of Leominster, dated August 12, 2019, prepared by SMC Survey and Mapping Consultants on 8/12, legal affairs regular course. And the public hearing will be on the 26th, and that's when they'll be voting on it. They wanted our recommendation on it as rail trails.
I think that's outside of the purview of our jurisdiction. I mean,
Yes, they asked for the environmental and the city, and the Conservation Commission's recommendation to
Take land by eminent domain.
support or deny, or support for the, project. Some of the area towards phase 2, which will be more downtown, is within the riverfront area and does have some more jurisdictional wetland areas. But the takings are basically for maintenance, obviously, and safety access, and for access during construction, which the construction will fall under a stormwater management plan. Looking at it, I believe as the agent, I support the rail trail, and as a citizen, I do support the rail trail. I do know they also have questions for us. They didn't necessarily inform me of the questions yet, but I am being asked to come to the next meeting on the 26th. Maybe you can make it as well.
I mean, I'm all in favor of the rail trail. Personally, I think it's a great thing, but as a commission, we don't have any jurisdiction over eminent domain takings. I mean, you're kind of giving, we'd be overstepping our boundaries as a board, and we'd be all giving our personal opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at their request, this is my opinion, as do we think this is beneficial to the environment along the rail trail?
Yeah, for the
Is how I would look at it. Is do we feel that the rail trail improvement or addition of this rail trail, would that help with the environmental impact?
But you're talking about eminent domain, you're not even talking about the rail trail in general. You're asking specifically about eminent domain takings.
Yeah.
I do know that at the meeting last night, a lot of people kind of, stood up and spoke against the rail trail and, why they shouldn't take the eminent domains, and not even just that, but just why they didn't want this in the city. So if the commission doesn't feel comfortable commenting on the eminent domain, I think we should still draft the letter, or you should draft a letter of support or show your support by coming to the meeting. Just to kind of say whether or not the commission supports the rail trail or is against it. The eminent domain, some of them are temporary for, putting in the pavement, putting the road, and then trees. We do need to go across some people's properties. A lot of the properties, I'm not extremely familiar with all the legal issues over the past 7 years since this started, but a lot of properties have encroached. And unfortunately, if the city does not vote, if the council does not approve this vote at the next meeting, it's quite possible that we will have to pay back the money, the state funds that were given to us. So, if you don't want to comment on the eminent domain, maybe we could still comment on just the rail trail project in general.
But didn't they already, in that last night's meeting?
Yes, but they asked for our referral now. They specifically asked us.
I thought they voted.
No, they voted to ask us.
Oh, okay.
Us, the police station, myself, and the mayor's office. Because there was concerns about traffic safety, so they went to the police station.
I mean, all in all, I think it's a positive for the city, but as far as the environment, I mean,
I don't think there's any either way.
I mean, what is the I just don't want to be put in a position where we do say something or do something that is kind of outside. We're not like the police have a certain set of what's under their jurisdiction. We have that same sort of these are the things that we. So I mean, I don't know how that works. I mean, are we allowed to give a position?
I think if, like you said, if we're giving a letter of support that says we think this would be a benefit to the environment itself or something, and I don't know how we word that, that's fine. But I agree, if they're asking for us to say, yeah, we support you going in with eminent domain to do this project, we don't really have any authority to do that. Now, from a legal standpoint, they probably do, because I know a lot of those, when I was looking at the plans, a lot of those businesses along Route 12, by my house, a lot of them have encroached quite a bit, and I know that obviously those business owners and stuff are not gonna be happy, but that's an entirely separate legal issue. Cause I think it would be awesome, cause then I wouldn't have to walk down Route 12 to like get to where I need to go. I think I've seen them done in so many different areas, and there is usually a lot of public pushback, but then I think once they are actually complete, and people see how nicely a lot of these are completed, I've worked on them before, and then people are like, oh, you know, this is great, cause you're not, all they're really doing is going in and using land that's already there, using clearing that's already there, right? But like, we can't really.
Who's gonna own the rail trail once it's done? The town, the cities?
Yeah,
And the city's gonna maintain it?
cause the city owns that easement.
Okay.
So the city owns the land in most places.
Right.
They had to go last state and federal grants to purchase the land.
So CSX or any of this, no one else owns, it's the city owned, so City of Fishkill is gonna own their portion, City of Leominster is gonna own their portion. They're gonna maintain it if any maintenance is needed, things
Yes.
like that. I mean, I would just like to make a comment.
Is it graded base or paved? How are they surfacing it?
I believe it's gonna be pavement throughout. So that's why and I do know they're gonna have to file, stormwater permit, and towards phase 2, they're gonna have to come back. They already came to us once for the bridge over by Longhorn, which there was an issue with that as well. That was brought up at the original public hearing. One of the butters that stated that he was informed by an agent of the Conservation Commission that all that material where they're gonna be bringing the berm down was all contaminated, which then triggered, obviously, our Stan Tech, who's handling the rail trail for us, had to go in, had to review the file with me from CSX back in when they originally collapsed. And we had letters stating that, everything in the file states that it's clean fill. So they had to do testing, and I believe that's the actual physical testing for the test pits, in addition to the test pits that they had to do to file for the NOI, which came back clean, just to make sure everything's clean. So I think with that kind of issue that was kind of brought up and no one really knew about it, just this one homeowner knew about it, kind of threw everyone from the city off kilter. That and the fact that most conservation commissions in cities and towns, if they support the rail trail, they do submit a letter of support, and for example, Swampscott, Framingham, Westford, Chelmsford, that all their commissions did submit a letter of support for their rail trails. I do understand their rail trails are a little bit different than ours. Ours is more urban. But even in urban areas, that just, for example, it's just a stormwater permit, all the sheet runoff, everything, we do have an opinion on whether or not we support this as a commission.
Personally, I think that's fine, but I think maybe just the way you stated it, or maybe the way they stated it to you, was we're all thinking they want a letter of support saying that we support them going in with eminent domain to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And that's not really.
That's not our jurisdiction. That's just what is
We
worded
can't really
on
say anything,
No,
but.
the agenda.
And as it goes for the overall
I think it's
environment, overall environmental impact, you talk about, I know what you're getting at with all this, putting in all this impervious, but, I've been around the city for 47 years, and I've seen a lot of it, as I'm sure a lot of us have, that has been encroached. There's pavement on there that people have taken, there's trash in people's backyards. I've walked on a number of rail trails, I'm sure as many of you have, Air, Groton, Pepperell, Gardner, Winchester, Sterling has a great one. I've been on all of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. Yes, they're pavement, but a lot of them have, benches. There's very little trash because people are in there, they're keeping it clear, people are looking at, to me, considering what that 4-mile stretch, and of course I've probably seen a mile of it total, but what it looks like today and what it potentially will look like if I can envision what a rail trail. Usually it's a pavement or a dirt path, but it's vegetated usually right to it. Very clean, very, especially with it being so urban. You may actually have the local police probably on bikes, patrolling it once in a while. If they see trash, I'm sure they might, So I think there is a benefit to the environment, because I think the people that have encroached on it from the areas that I have seen have a tendency to put brush trash, because it's not their land, so it's where
Yeah,
can
no,
I put
I-
stuff I don't want?
I agree completely.
So I think it would help. I don't wanna talk about the encroachment, I mean,
Eminent domain.
eminent domain, because again, that's out of our jurisdiction, but, but even on being a pavement with sheet flow, I mean, they're usually 6 feet wide. They're pitched, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get sheet flow, but you're gonna get 1.5 feet onto.
Yeah, it's all vegetated.
It's all to vegetated. I just,
Yeah, and I think when I read the NOI for the part about the bridge, that's exactly what they said. There was gonna be, I wanna say they said maybe 10 feet or something of natural vegetation that they were gonna plant on both sides of the
Yeah.
rail trail,
So-
so.
to me, I think it's, at least for that strip around there, from what I've seen in the past from all these other towns, it usually cleans up the trails. I can comment definitely for the Winchton one, because that one used to be terrible, and you go there now and they just put in charging stations at the trailheads, for electric cars, and so they added a lot of vegetation. Sterling's done a little,
Yeah, they did.
they have picnic tables, so
Yeah.
it's usually relatively clean, and at least it's overseen by somebody, so.
Correct.
And I think ours will be really unique because it's gonna come, it's gonna go from Fitchburg all the way through Leominster, hopefully someday maybe connect to the Sterling Rail Trail. But even though it's urban, like we have our own urban nature, I guess
Right.
that's the way to put it. We have, the Minnesota Brook in the middle of the city that flows through the city. And I think this will provide access for a lot of people to go see
So-
that in a way that they might feel more comfortable than hiking through the woods and.
I personally am in favor of it, but I think environmentally, it's my opinion, and I'm sure there's another side of that opinion. I think it's beneficial, at least
Yeah.
at least for that parcel of land, because I think it'll be kept much cleaner than what it
Yeah.
currently is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some issues with CSX, and when we did have problems there, the reaction time to get a major environmental issue resolved was years. I think, since if that area is in possession of the city's gonna be, like, there's somebody that I can reach out to if we have a problem with trash, or we have a problem with
Right.
whatever, we can call the DPW or the mayor's office. But if it stays in the hands of CSX, which it's in now, I think we lose we don't have that responsiveness. We'll be waiting, we'll be waiting 2 years for a response like we did when that culvert collapsed, so.
Right,
I mean, literally, it was almost a year and a half, I think, before we could get them to acknowledge us.
right.
So I think
Yeah,
environmentally, it
with
would
work.
benefit us to have the city own the portion of property that's
Right.
now owned by CSX.
So,
Yeah, I think there would be citywide cleanups, might go through there as well.
right.
There's trash there now, so, and I don't think it's gonna get worse.
So then, are we okay with a letter that says something like that we, as a commission, can't comment on X, Y, and Z, however, we do see it as a benefit because of everything that we just talked about?
The way I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
thinking of wording it,
Would everyone be okay with that?
that I kind of been drafting since last night was I would state the environmental, how we want people to see our urban nature and all the beautiful different scenery we have in the city, even though it's different than Westford and Chelmsford, as well as that we want to see that taken care of after the fact and taken care of during building, and if these easements and encroachments are needed in order to do that, the commission is in support of doing safe construction habits, environmentally DMPs, and maybe word it like that, that
Yeah.
would support anything that would make the construction process more environmentally friendly. And if these do that, then we do believe it's in the benefit of the city.
And the pavement, as much as I'm not a huge fan of it, it makes it easily accessible to the handicap,
Yeah, it
which
is, and
exposes the environment to more
and
people.
usually they're not, I haven't seen the plans, but usually they're not more than 10 feet.
No, I
They're
think that's,
8
I believe they're gonna be
feet.
12 feet.
12
Just
feet
in-
wide.
And then there's like a little, plant, like vegetated area in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they're usually not huge, but,
No, I think it,
I'm okay with that.
so I think that would be,
I mean, yeah, we could talk about the land taking or from CSX, but I wouldn't go beyond that.
Yeah, so they're not,
Specifically.
so all the land we own now from CSX. CSX doesn't own it, but in order to maintain it and to build the rail trail, they're gonna need these temporary and permanent easements. For some of them are, I believe one of them is someone built like a building, and so they need a temporary easement to kind of go around the building into the land. They're not gonna make them take the whole building down, because that doesn't. But, you know, for example, in order for them to build that bridge, they're gonna need a temporary easement to go behind these people's homes, by Doyle. And, you know, move the construction material, take down the trees that need to be taken down, take out the dirt and the fill and set up a camp there, but that will go away, obviously, and
Once
some
it's
of the
built.
permanent easements, because if they need to go in and do tree clearing, they need to do fixing, new repairs of fence. For example, if we have an issue, I'm trying to think down in this network, they might need a temporary easement if someone's dumping something, or if they're causing a ruckus, they might need an easement to go on their property and clean that up. I see it as a benefit for the environment, because we could call Ray Racine at DPW and be like, hey, you know, we just got a report that someone's cutting down trees right along the rail trail. Oh, we have an easement there, we can go out there and replant the trees and address it appropriately without having to,
Yeah,
as well as we'll be able to make sure that the construction practices are as clean, build more truck pads in if we need to.
You're not gonna touch it in the winter, right?
I don't believe they're gonna plow it in the winter.
constables don't, that I know.
Yeah.
That's
Usually they
That's
don't.
really not my,
No.
Usually they don't.
No, you'll see
If
some
you have,
people,
like,
you'll see some
snowshoes or something,
snowshoes
you
and
can go,
cross-country
but-
skiing, and you see someone
Usually
with
they
I was
that.
like, I can't speak to that, cause you know, we do have those little plows that do the sidewalks, but I don't know if that'll be
I don't
used.
think, I don't think that they would bother.
It seems really unlikely, but
Yeah.
We're
You know,
in
it's-
Sun City. But I can draft up a letter and then send it out to you guys before the meeting, if you guys wanna vote on me draft up a
Perfect.
letter and approving it.
Yeah,
That
and then
way.
we can approve it,
So their meeting's before our meeting, so if we can vote on it, and then once I get everyone's thumbs up via email and not reply all,
do not reply all.
I don't know if you guys got that memo.
Yes.
Then I'll sign it, you know, on behalf of the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And then please come to the meeting on the 26th, and show your support if you support the project.
Okay.
But don't take any stickers.
Do I have a motion to have Angela draft a letter, and we'll review it through email before the August 26th city council meeting?
I will make a motion to have RH draft a letter in support of the rail trail with the verbiage that we discussed this evening to be approved by the commission by email prior to the Monday, August 26th meeting.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? All right. Meeting minutes, May 28th. Mr. Stone, who's not here, and Mr. Gallagher, who's not here, we're absent, so.
You guys can move on it.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? You sure? You weren't busy on your yacht that day?
We're grounded.
Okay. I have no revisions needed. I see no revisions. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented for May 28th, 2019?
I will make the motion that we accept the meetings as presented for the May 28th, 2019 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? New business, Pasco Ave bond.
Yes. So I was approached by a gentleman who owned 4 lots on Pasco Ave. The way it was worked out with the commission was that on one lot, it's basically entirely wetlands. You might should be familiar, the John Julian and Stanley McNiff project.
I mean, I remember the names, I
Okay, so-
probably have to see the plans too, but I,
So basically, it was 4 lots, one lot was completely wetlands. The order of conditions stated for that one lot that's completely wetlands that he could fill it in if he replicated the wetlands elsewhere and met quite a few other conditions. So time passed, he built 3 lots, the one lot that's completely wetland was never touched, the order condition lapsed. This is where it gets very difficult to kind of understand because the files aren't complete. But the Conservation Commission actually took a $10,000 bond for the project in order to issue a certificate of compliance for that lot so that he could say that he completed it and then start building, was my presumption. It went to court, it was appealed, it went to DEP, there was 9 levels of legal, review on it. The basic, the commission was asking Mr. Julian to provide proof that the wetlands were replicated before they issued the COC for that project. Just to prove it before they allowed him to finish. At some point before any of our time, except for maybe Larry's, the commission approved, refunding Mr. McNiff $8,000, as it was his money that he had put on the bond, and then the last $2,000 was to be used to finish the last work, which is some stabilization, a head wall, in the wetland replication area, and then to prove that it was replicated. Unfortunately, Mr. McNiff has passed since, and Mr. Julian, who owns the lots, has come forward requesting that, as part of the deal, that either the commission finish the work, as that was in the deal, if it wasn't done within 21 days, the commission could possibly use that money to finish the work, or give him the $2,000. I was unsure of the answer, so I did refer it out to KP Law as this has come up. Joanne Donardo had dealt with it, Marco had dealt with it, and I'm dealing with it. So I sent out to KP Law to kind of get the final touch on it, because I did speak to the city solicitor at the time, who was Mr. Bedanza, our city councilor. And after reviewing the agreement that was done between Stanley McNiff and the Conservation Commission, there was a lot of spelling errors. They didn't spell the city solicitor's name correctly, and it didn't mention John Julian in it. So when KP Law did review it as well, their take on it was the agreement wasn't with John Julian, it was with Stanley McNiff. So we could only give that money back to Stanley McNiff or someone of his estate, as well as we don't have to do the work. We're not obligated to do that work unless, he can come through, we could maybe discuss going through more legal court systems if they can prove that the wetlands were replicated, but they didn't feel comfortable. They supported the decision that was made back in 2007. So I did want to let you know, because obviously Mr. Julian was upset about speaking with me, and I told him, no, I can't give you a certificate of compliance, I can't release the money. The commission would have to release the money. And he requested an official letter from our city solicitor, who is now drafting that currently, to mail out to him stating, our stance on it, and that we stand with the Superior Court's agreement that he needs to provide several documents proving that those wetlands are replicated before we release that final lot. So I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop. This will go on for about a month for me, so.
Sounds like fun.
It's been enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely, keep us abreast, and I would definitely, obviously refer unless someone else has got a much more legal background than I do. I wouldn't want to get involved in that kind of discussion, and I would refer all of our expertise to KP Law. So. Old business, Manusnock Brook.
Still working on getting that couple million.
Okay.
They did go out there and clear some of the brush.
When do they get the free cash? When does that come available? Is that like this?
I don't know, and
It's like 9 million.
I know
isn't
there
there?
was, there was a lot of free cash floating around.
I mean, this is an environmental and a safety issue, right in the heart of Leominster, downtown.
I wonder,
If we petition
could
somebody?
we ask the mayor officially if we could use some of the free cash for this?
Yeah, I could most definitely reach out to him, and I don't see why not.
Just because, this is, as Mr. Stone, used it as an example earlier in the meeting, this has been going on for quite a while. It's still not right. Yes, it's currently in a stable, safe condition, but it's not correct, so. Just because, we know there was some free cash available, it was made public in the
Yeah.
newspaper that,
I mean, all they did was dump big stones down there.
right.
I mean, that riprap isn't gonna hold forever.
Right.
You know, and that's the whole, that's downtown Leominster, that could,
Right, and if that collapses, it's gonna make a dam.
right, and that's gonna cause an
Because
invasion.
now there's a lot more material in the floodplain and, you know, so. If we could make an official request from the commission to see if, what, you know,
That's okay.
okay, that would be great. 375 Harvard Street.
Does I have an update? Yes, I actually, Mr. DeMassa did reach out to me. We were on another site. And I have been working with GBC Construction, who's doing the work for him, who also rents from him. Good afternoon, Angela. My apologies for not getting back to you sooner. I've been out of town for a few weeks. As you discussed the site condition with Carl 2 weeks ago, the future drainage pond work still cannot proceed without creating an adverse environmental condition. The current subgrade is still very wet, the old leaching field has still not dried out, and the area is just super wet, which I have seen. If you're gonna drive anything down there, it's gonna cause more destruction. As soon as we can get the area that'll create more mess, we will contact you, and all the drainage and pipe materials are waiting on site. Are waiting to be delivered. They're already ordered. Please don't hesitate to call or email. So I do know they are supposed to get done in July, but this has been, I feel like a very wet summer anyways, as well as hot. And they have been keeping up with me every time I go there. They've welcomed me on the site. Mr. DeMassa has been very communicative with me about the project. Every time he sees me, he lets me know what's going on.
Okay.
You know, they're working on it slowly but surely.
Okay. Because it's past the enforcement deadline, is there anything we need to do, should we do?
So once we issue an order of conditions, technically the enforcement, which is, so if you issue an enforcement order and you tell them to file an NOI, that enforcement order kind of is null and void, and then the NOI becomes, the order of conditions becomes what you can enforce. So we could issue another enforcement order, if the commission wants to, or we could vote on issuing them another, 30-day extension to the end of September. Hopefully it dries out. And I can address any other concerns with them.
The order of conditions, did we issue any order of conditions for them?
There's timelines in there though for construction, right?
Yeah, I believe it said with the reason, if there's reasonable reasons to extend it, was kind of the agreement.
Yeah, it's just, it
I
seems
know.
like everything with this site is an extension and
Yeah.
you know, and they're working with the company that's sort of doing it around their other projects, so like how much of it is really the environment, how much of it is, you know what I mean? We just
one
want
at a time, yeah.
we can't let this go past this year, you know what I mean, like this
Right.
I understand.
whatever, building year, whatever you call
Right,
it,
right.
construction year.
Yeah, and that's my question. I mean, I don't mind if he's keeping you abreast of the situation, keeping you informed. I don't mind
Which isn't
expending.
the historical relationship I know the Conservation Commission has had with him.
Yeah.
I know typically it's very difficult to get a hold of Mr. DeMassa. I think, Chris, I can't say his last name. So I'm hoping it's a turning of the tides, and it's just been a really bad building season. Because I do know, for another example, Moosonk Country Club, they just got out there to do those drainage ditches, and that was supposed to be done last October.
Yeah, I mean, things that, from someone that's in the construction business,
Yeah, you know.
yes, it has been wet and things are delayed. I have no problem extending it a short amount of time, me personally, but I would agree with Mr. Giannakis that, if it was originally supposed to be July 30th, seeing it's, whatever today is, August 15th, 13th, 14th, whatever it is, giving them till the end of September to complete the work, be 100% complete, is not asking for a lot, especially if, what they've ordered, I don't know what's entailed, but it's, drainage pipe and stuff that's, you're not 3 months out on getting material, so. I would think that's more than reasonable to give them 6 weeks, but to be 100% 100% complete. I wouldn't go further than that. That's my opinion. And then that still gives it a little bit of time to maybe get some vegetation growth before the winter as well, if they have to
If not,
do anything.
the gentleman who owns the business, his brother works with him, he's an environmental specialist, and, which I know isn't the same as environment, you've met him, he's an environmental specialist in Maine, and he knows, so if I need to, I can talk to him about getting more road controls in place if we need to as well. But set a deadline, and if it's not done by this deadline, we'll issue another enforcement order, and I can, make that clear to them.
Yeah, I think that might be the way to go. I mean, we'll take the man at his word at this point and give him till the end of September. That gives him 6 weeks.
Yeah, we don't want bare ground come springtime. you know?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you plant vegetation in September, yeah, it's not gonna go great, but I think it'll grow enough to. So do we need to vote for an extension?
I would like that just for the record in case anything gets pulled by the state.
Okay. Do I have a motion to extend the order of conditions? Is that what we're extending?
Well, just to send it a deadline that's in the
Deadline and
special
the- okay.
conditions.
All right, to extend the deadline and the special conditions of the order conditions for 375 Harvard Street. Do I have a motion for that?
I will make a motion that we extend the deadline, special conditions and order of conditions for 375 Harvard Street.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. And please inform them that it might be our intention that September 30th, if it's not complete, we'll probably issue an enforcement order.
I will not leave any question in their mind that we're trusting them on their good word. And
19 Roach Ave.
so this project, I know we're all familiar with the Pierce Pond subdivision. If you're pulling in, it's the last house on the left. It was a little yellow house. There were some issues because there was a miscommunication between Mr. Rebenzi's contractor and the building department. He applied not for a demo permit, but a refab permit to kind of remodel the house. Unfortunately, they ended up taking down the entire house, except for the fieldstone foundation. So I wasn't sure if this would really fall into our jurisdiction, as they're planning on rebuilding the house on the foundation, and they're not gonna be disturbing any of the land. I believe I measured it was 35 feet from the water on Roach Pond.
Pierce Pond.
Pierce Pond, sorry,
Roach
Roach
Ave.
Ave, Pierce Pond. Where they're not doing any site disturbance, the most site disturbance would be that they plan on putting another deck on. Which I wasn't sure, because I do know that a deck on an existing house
So,
is exempt, but
But it's not an existing
there's
house.
just an existing foundation, so. It is out of the floodplain, but I do know when I spoke to Mr. Benzie, he in the future wants to put a garage on, but he has to move the lot lines, because he wants to put a garage on with an in-law apartment. So he's kind of still working out what he wants to do, but where the garage would be in the floodplain.
It sounds like an order of conditions. Just from everything you've said, I mean, they're taking an existing foundation, they're putting an addition on, a garage, an in-law.
Well, they're not
apartment,
sure if they're gonna do the garage or the addition yet, so if they do that, that would absolutely be
But
order
they're
of
still gonna be
conditions.
working, there's still gonna be like excavators driving around within 30 feet of the water.
Supposedly, they're not gonna need to do that, supposedly, from my discussion,
You're gonna take a crane and just, or put a
they're
modular?
gonna just lay the wood down and build a house. Cause it's just the foundation's all there, so they don't need to do any site work. Technically, there was something on top of the existing foundation.
There's still gonna be machinery, though, isn't there?
I'm assuming the machinery would be up on the road part, because, there's a retaining wall, it's about 3.5 feet tall that holds the driveway up, and then there's the house. And so I don't see them driving the machinery down.
Well, why don't they just come in for a, for
RDA.
RDA and with a plan of, with the final
Yeah.
plan?
Okay.
And then we can,
I definitely want to see something.
yeah.
I don't know if it's an
I wasn't
idea
sure if this
here.
was an enforceable issue, because technically they didn't demolish a house within
Yeah, I mean,
But
technically the
it's
demo.
a very technical thing.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know
I
what
know the
considered
building inspector
demolition.
is making them produce engineered plans for the fieldstone wall, because there was one wall that did fall, because it looks like it was possibly molten loam. It's a very interesting situation. But I wasn't sure if it would really be an enforcement issue, because technically they didn't do anything.
No, I mean, it's supposed to get a sign off from conservation based on the fact that it was, 30 feet from
Yeah,
the water, but
So I'll let them know that, Commission's gonna ask them to come in for an RDA.
at the minimum, I mean,
Yeah.
if there's any work beyond, see, even a deck though at this point is,
Because it's a new house.
it's a new house, it's not exempt.
All right, that was my take on it, and I did let, Hannigan Engineering know that. So I'll let them know that the commission agrees. You just wanna vote
I
on,
mean, why not just file for a notice of intent? It's 35 feet from the water, it's, just come in with a final plan, what you wanna build, move your lot lines first, and then,
yeah. Well, I believe his, don't be held to this, but I do believe his son wants to live there. So I'm sure he wants to put the house up, so his son can move in, but I can talk to them a little further and meet with Mr. Benzie again and kind of let him know where we are and have him come in the next meeting possibly.
yeah.
909 Elm Street.
So this is kind of at a standstill. His goal is to pull it out of our jurisdiction, and work under the enforcement order to move everything and then revegetate the area. But due to the Watershed Protection Act, which is not under our jurisdiction, it's under the planning board jurisdiction, there's debate whether or not he needs to go before them. The building inspector and myself believe that he needs to file for a permit to work in the watershed as he's adding fill and doing work in the watershed district. But the planning director believes that since he had a special permit to build the house there, and he's been living there, so technically the special permit's been active, and as the retaining wall, he's gonna make it he's gonna make it 4 feet high and pull it out of the wetlands. Since it doesn't require a building permit, it's her opinion that it doesn't require the planning board.
In my, whatever, as long as I've been on this commission, anytime anybody did any activity in the drinking water supply protection district, they needed a permit. That's always been the case since,
So,
if you wanted to put a 8x8 shed in the drinking water supply protection district, you were supposed to get permission.
that is my
From the governing-
understanding, as well as the building inspectors, unfortunately. The planning director does not agree that she thinks that since he's lived there, the special permit's still active, as well as if she doesn't believe that, she believes that since it doesn't require a building permit, it doesn't require special site plan approval.
So if I had a hill and I wanted to bulldoze it, that doesn't require a building permit. But if it was in the drinking water supply protection district, the city needs to know
We'll
about
put a
it.
shed 8x8, which does not require a building permit in the city of Leominster, and I can fill with gasoline and oil. Bet you they'd be pretty concerned about that, so I
don't know
would push
if you guys
back.
wanna reach out to her, I have discussed this with her at length.
Would you like me to reach out to her?
Yeah, you might be beneficial.
I mean, it's always been the case that since I've been on the commission, it used to be handled by city council, I believe, at one
Right.
time. And you could not do anything without city council approval.
Correct.
It sounds like
In the 9 years I've been on, I would agree with
when
that.
responsibility changed hands, either things changed or,
And I do know that, I spoke with Roger Brooks, who handles most of the watershed, agrees with us in the building department, but fortunately, it's not our jurisdiction. It's not my jurisdiction, so I
who's the city
can't.
councilor in that area?
Elm Street is Bedanza?
I think so.
I think that's
I'm not sure
Ward
exactly where
4.
the line is.
So it should
I
be
can
the-
find out.
Because it would be
I'm pretty
nice
sure
to get
it's
them
Ward
involved, because,
But
or even anybody at large to be able to say, hey, this is the city's drinking water, you don't, I mean, there was water, I drove by there one day and there was runoff coming down the street going into a wetland from that property. And all that water goes in, eventually gets into our drinking water. I mean, it's not something you take lightly.
I mean, I completely agree, and I'm not taking it lightly, but.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not.
And I did speak more.
But it sounds like
and he wants
the
to do
planning
right
department
thing,
might be, so.
And he has been reaching out to her, and his consultant, he's had Hannigan Engineering, has been reaching out to her, but her answers to me were that she doesn't believe it requires planning board a watershed permit.
I'll reach out to the Conservation Commission.
I mean, maybe maybe something
Maybe
changed in the
Yeah,
last
I don't
5
know.
years.
Yeah,
Maybe they changed their regulations. But if not, then
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Granite Street, we talked about. I think we're done.
Yeah. Let me look real quick.
I think we're done. Continue.
This is down, they've been doing updates, so I have no budget updates.
Our next meeting is August 27th with a filing deadline of last Friday. Anything else anyone would like to discuss? And with nothing, I declare this meeting adjourned.